shake them up.
Okay. 7 o'clock?
Meeting called to order. Today is Tuesday, March 6th, 2018. It's now 7 p.m. Town Council meeting in the Town Council Chambers, 1170 Main Street, West Warwick, Rhode Island. We will rise for prayer. And before we rise for prayer, can we take a moment of silence for Al Messier? Councilman Messier's father passed away earlier this afternoon. He had an unfortunate short life here. And Councilman Messier, I commend you for being here tonight. I recommended that you stayed home, but with your best interest, you wanted to be here. So thank you.
Let's bow our heads. Heavenly Father, we come together this evening to conduct the business of our town. Bless this meeting with your divine presence. Please guide our hearts and our minds in the decisions that we make with your wisdom and compassion. In this we pray. Amen.
Angel, use the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Councilman Licciardi?
Here.
Councilman Messier?
Here.
Councilman Padula?
Here.
Council Vice President Nico?
Here.
Council President Godwin?
Here.
There is a quorum on record.
At this time, I'd like to close the executive session that was held on February 27th. Under Section 42-46-4 and 42-46-5A4, 7 of the Rhode Island General Laws, the Council will close the executive session that was with the discussion of interest arbitrations for wage reopeners for fire and police unions under the prevailing collective bargaining agreements.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Thank you. Is Markham here? Yes.
I think they just walked in.
Markham presentation regarding FY 2017 audit report.
Good evening.
Is that different than the copy we have?
Well, same thing.
Probably the televised.
Probably the same as the color version.
Yeah. We also got a copy of this a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
Guess that is on. Good evening. Thanks for inviting us to discuss the town's 2017 financial statements and audit. Again, we prepared a quick outline, a couple of slides just to go through some of the highlights on some of the major funds. Feel free to ask questions at any time. I'd like to jump to slide number 3 to begin. The town's general fund, again, it is the single most important fund of the town. During the fiscal year that ended June of 17, total fund balance decreased by $1,085,620. The budgeted change in that was 0. So we had a excess of expenditures over revenues of just under $1,000,001. At the end of the year, the unassigned fund balance in the general fund amounted to just a bit more than $217,000. That balance represents less than 1% of the operating budget, and is certainly well below the healthy target of 8 to 16% of expenditures that we've discussed in previous meetings. Flipping over to page 4, you can see the trend on fund balance the last 6 years. Certainly not unexpected. I know the town's 5-year plan, I think, portrayed similar results as this. The fund balance decreasing. And you can see again that blue section of that 17 is just the unassigned portion of the fund balance. It's not earmarked for anything continuing. Flipping to page.
Excuse me.
Sure.
For
Would you like us to wait till the end?
No, please,
So as I'm looking at, if we add 2018 to this chart, this graph, what do you expect this bar to be?
I really can't tell at this point. So we haven't done any auditing procedures of anything subsequent to June 30th of 17. Certainly the budget was balanced to, have no change in that fund balance amount. Certainly it'll depend on projections and where revenues and expenditures come in during the current fiscal year.
So you have two total and unassigned amounts on here.
Correct.
Ernie, do we have what the assignments are as far as, because it looks like it's a little over $500,000, but I just want to know what the assignments are. Huh?
Some of it's for capital.
Capital?
Yeah, it is noted in the notes of the financial statements what the designations are.
Committed is for capital.
Yep.
Non-spendable, I have to look into that, to see what that is.
All right, if we can just get an update on that tomorrow.
Now, this fund balance has nothing to do with whatever's remaining from our road bond money
No,
and our
this
sewer enterprise fund, right?
this is strictly in the general fund. None of
Just
those other funds. Correct.
Okay.
Correct. Now, flipping to page 5, again, the results of operations where that $1,085,000 decrease came from. Revenues were a big part of that. Revenues were below budget by $625,000. Of that, property taxes was the largest item, over $950,000 below what was anticipated to come in. When we look at decreases in fund balance, revenue shortfalls from property taxes generally aren't the worst thing because those taxes are still out there to be collected and come in as revenue someday. Whereas on the other side, if it's an over expenditure, those are permanent differences. That money's not coming back. There was certainly a lag in collection of prior year tax balances that were anticipated to come in, as well as the collection percentage that was built into the budget was based on a 97% collection factor and actually came in at 96.3%. So that 0.7% on the tax levy contributed to the shortfall in tax revenue for the year. Again, don't have any interim information on what's happening in the current fiscal year, but again, with a bigger balance of uncollected coming in, you would think perhaps this year that there'd be some positive results in that revenue
You
line
just
item.
have to find $2.7 million in this fiscal period. So,
I don't know how much of that would come in, but certainly there's more out there to be brought in. So, collection efforts and
Estimate how much?
I couldn't estimate anything at this point in time. Again, we haven't done any audit procedures on 18s, any of the numbers for this year yet. So,
Well, when we get this, we're already in the hole, so wouldn't it be wise that we know beforehand how much exactly what we're gonna be a shortfall of?
Well, it's a little
I mean,
different.
we already know.
can you do this midway? Like, all right, if I, excuse me, start July 1st.
Mhm.
Is there something that you could do possibly the end of December, beginning of January, looking at, this is our past 6 months, we have 6 months to go, because like Angela's saying is, this is done all after the fact, and you came in a deficit. I mean, as of last meeting, I think we're pretty clear that we're in a deficit, pretty solid deficit. So if we knew that maybe midstream, it might help.
I mean, typically, communities we work with, it's really management's, they're doing the interim books, they're closing the books every month, they're projecting out, reporting to the state on a quarterly basis what expected expenditures are, what the projection for fund balance is. Most times it's not, there's a cost benefit to doing any, a mid-year audit per se, or
Yeah.
procedures on that. Again, the numbers that were provided by the town's management, there were not significant adjustments to those. So I would anticipate the records that you're reviewing on interim basis now are.
Maybe I'm not understanding this. So, the end of the year,
Yep.
June 30th comes.
Yeah, this report is as of June 30th, 2017.
Okay,
So it is at
No,
that period. in
I'm
May.
just curious, because there was a fee involved, correct, for this?
Oh, sure.
Yes.
Yes.
But if you're giving us the information, and the finance director is giving us the information at the end of the year, then whether we're in the plus or the minus, we're gonna move forward into the next year. So, we already know that information, correct?
Correct, it was part of the financial statements from last year, part of this
Yes,
presentation.
where are we gonna get that from?
Well, yeah, basically, yeah, you will get the information
So
that we
we're just
have,
paying
that we know
somebody to
for
tell us
sure.
that information again?
Well, no, basically, we're giving you estimates, projections based upon what we see, and we'll do that every month and continually. Then the books are closed, and it takes at least, 4, 5, 6 months to get final numbers for how you ended the fiscal year. So, yeah, we'll have an idea of where we are, as the books close, but again, it takes time to finalize your tax collection numbers.
Right, I
So
get
it takes all that, so
Well,
you
cor-
won't know for sure.
Correct me if I'm wrong, and I know what you're trying to get at
Yeah.
here, but it's state law that we must be audited and
Correct.
we can't audit ourselves. That's what he's saying. He's asking why we are giving us the information midstream that we have a shortfall.
Mhm.
And then 6 months after the
Right.
year's over, we're getting an audit and we're paying them for the same information.
Exactly.
But by state law, we must have an audit.
All right. Well,
Essentially, it confirms the information that management is provided for the
Shut
financial
it off.
statements.
Okay.
I don't know
all
why.
right, thank you.
It's off. I don't know how it rings with the button on.
Moving on to page 6, again, continuing in the general fund, expenditures were $440,000 above appropriated amounts. There were 5 or 6 areas that were significantly above budgeted amounts: retirement, insurance, contractual services, and the like. Moving on to 7, the school department, the other major fund of the town. The school department ended the year with an unrestricted fund balance of just over $4,355,000. Just under 4.2 of that is committed for educational purposes. The balance is unspendable. Essentially unspendable are inventories, prepaid expenditures that cannot be reappropriated and spent again. That fund balance number, the 4.3 million, is the accumulation of all prior year balances. There was a current year increase in that balance of just under $80,000. The school grant funds recognized activity of just under $2.5 million to supplement their educational program. And revenues at the school were about $175,000 above budgeted amounts for the year. On page 8, expenditures for capital outlay. The school department incurred expenditures just over $1,539,000 for the year. The school department's been using its accumulated fund balance on capital items, building improvements, technology, again avoiding long-term borrowings, paying for those out of their operating budget. And during the year, the school lunch fund recognized a net income of just over $21,000 for the year. On slide, sure.
Going back to page 7, the unrestricted
Yep.
year-end fund balance. I'm expecting that with our meeting we just had with the school committee, I'm expecting that to be going down with the next few years because seems like there's a big surplus and that's been increasing every year. Am I correct by saying that?
Yeah, it's been really pretty level at the 4.5 million around the past couple of years. I know during the audit they were talking with business manager that they have a plan for increasing capital expenditures out of that. So that would be reducing that as they invest in capital.
So I see that going down within the next year or two?
Yeah. Redirected again into capital items. So, the slide on page 9 is really a combined fund balance picture of the town's general fund and the school's unrestricted fund. Certainly the bulk of a lot of the taxes that are raised do support the school departments. If you look at the combination of those two funds, is really being the heart of the town's operations. The fund balance there hasn't changed all that much over the past 4 years or so. That total from 14 was just over 6 million, still around 6 million in total, then just about 5 at the end of the year. The change you can see is that the town's portion of that has decreased while the school's has increased over the years. So, and as you just mentioned, as the school redeploys their fund balance, their share of that fund balance will be decreasing. The wastewater authority generated operating revenues just under 5.7 million. Operating expenses were consistent, just about 7.6, same as the prior year. They did incur a small loss for the year compared with income from the prior year. However, at the end of the fiscal year, the Wastewater Authority Fund still has net assets or net worth of just under $41 million. 33 million of that's invested in capital assets, but they do have an unrestricted balance of just under 7.6 million in the wastewater fund. Now, one of the highlights we've discussed for the past couple of years with the town is the status of the town's pension plan. At the end of June of 17, the financial statements reported a funded status just under 21%, consistent with the actuarial evaluation. The actuarial evaluation uses a slightly different measurement of the fair value of the asset, so the actuary number is a little bit higher than the financial statements portray, but that is an increase over the past 3 years, where that funded status ranged from 19 to just a little bit over 18%. At the end of the year, the town's net pension liability was just under $130 million, 128.4. Funding has been budgeted 100% of the required contributions, and actually for each of the past 3 years, that contribution has met or exceeded the contribution. So you've fully funded the pension obligation for the past 3 years. Again, I think some of that, the town's general fund, the fund balance has decreased, but certainly been making strides in funding the pension obligation, which in the long term is the proper thing to do. Prior to 2015, again, that pension funding was significantly below the required contributions. And you can see in 17, the return on investments averaged just a little bit over 12.3%, almost double what it was in the previous year. The slide on 13 is really a portrayal of the town's pension funding those last 10 years, and you can see those last 3 meeting the annual required contribution. Prior to that, you can see the red where that was underfunded, where the actuary required the contribution is to be in those years. Moving on 14, the other big liability the town has is the other post-employment benefits, health insurance and benefits for retirees. The town does have a trust fund and is pre-funding some of those benefits. A positive step. Most of our other communities are not pre-funding any of this. They're funding it on a pay-as-you-go basis. The town also did elect to early implement GASB Statement 75, which again brings the total OPEB liability onto the financial statements of the town. That liability being just over $56 million at the end of June. While that funded ratio is only 3.2%, as I mentioned, most of our other communities have 0 funding, so it's all pay-as-you-go. As far as findings and recommendations, we did issue a communication to the town council and those charged with governance. Pleased to report that we received full cooperation from management. Very few audit adjustments were proposed. No notice of the town shopping for opinions or asking us to treat transactions a certain way. We received full access to all the documentation we requested. No disagreements or delays. Our opinion on the town's government-wide financial statements was qualified this year. In auditing the town's share of the teacher pension plan obligation, in reconciling the contributions between what the school department had recorded and what the plan had recorded and allocated, we found a discrepancy there where the records provided did not support changing the liability from the prior year amount. So our audit opinion on those government-wide statements was qualified for that item not being updated. I know there was a separate communication from the Auditor General on
Going
that.
back to your finding and recommendations, you said that there was no hassle per se from any departments or anything. You got the information. I think
Correct.
this is one of the fastest years we've gotten our audit done. Is this correct?
I think I'm here about the same time. I know the bulk of the financial statement audit was done in November. There were some open items, essentially the audit opinion and reconciling those pension contributions. But again, management was ready. The records were provided on a timely basis. We were able to get in, receive full cooperation. We appreciate that from town and school management.
Any questions from the council?
How much were they not telling you about the teacher's pension, or you didn't get any information at all?
I know that the state teacher pension plan does provide a full allocation of the net pension liability for all the participating employers. And we received, all the information we needed. Again, it was reconciling that activity that the plan had recorded for the measurement period to what the actual contributions were. There was a a system conversion at the pension plan where certain wages, certain contributions on wages that were paid after the end of 16, that were 16 plan year, there was a discrepancy there. So when they allocated the pension contribution, it's allocated based on dollars that went in, and West Warwick's, everything was paid, just the credit for all those contributions wasn't built into the allocation. So the allocation came out with a number that was significantly lower than what we believed it truly was, looking at what the contributions actually were.
So to our benefit? To the town's benefit?
It would have been, but it was an artificial benefit. Certainly this year, when that corrects itself, that liability is going to go right back up to where it was. So. And again, it did not impact any of the fund financial statements. It's only on the government-wide financial statements that take a much
So
more
why was
longer-term
that?
view.
Can anybody answer that for me?
Why was what?
Why was it not recorded properly?
The explanation we received was there was a system conversion at the state teacher pension plan, and there was a gap in accounting for those contributions at the plan level. Certainly nothing under the control of anyone in management of the town or school department.
More on the state level.
Yeah, and we did there were a lot of meetings and discussions on that, potential workarounds, how could that get corrected, but at the end of the day, once the information was published, all the other 50 or so participating employers, their number was not materially misstated, and they had already started using that information, so at the time it was decided that will be corrected in the current year's allocation when that number comes out.
Any other questions from the council? Any public comment? Thank you again.
Thank you.
We're pretty much, like Councilman Licciardi said, we're pretty well informed from Ernie and staff over the past few months of what this was
Right.
gonna look like, so
Right.
there's no surprises here tonight.
No, we're really a confirmation that, the record that you are being provided, we're opining on management's representation. Out of the entire document, we're 3 pages of it, our opinion, the rest of it's management's representation. So,
Thank you.
thanks.
Thank you.
Consent agendas, license applications. Resolved that the consent agenda having been posted, all matters being referred to the proper departments and being disposed of or awaiting recommendation, the same is hereby approved.
Move the resolution.
Second.
Moving second, any discussion? Any public discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Oh,
One of the licenses, want to bring up the circus. Can we separate that from the other ones?
It's all on one if you wanna separate it, but.
Well, I mean, I can vote on one, I can vote yes on the rest and vote no on that one, correct?
Yeah.
I just want to discuss the circus. I think as a town, and I talked to Lori about this, so she's probably cringing right now. I think as a town, we've done a lot of things that are pro-animals over the past year. I know John changed the ambient temperature so people can't leave their dogs out late at night. We have another item on the agenda here where we're going to try to stop the sale of dogs and cats in this town. And last year I did vote for the circus, but in the last year I've done a lot of research, and I used to take my son to the circus, but we don't go to the circuses anymore. I got several emails from some constituents about the way the animals are treated. Some of them are trained with whips, ropes, bullhooks, electric prods, and other weapons. Animals spend most of their life living in isolation, chained or caged in small areas. Those in captivity suffer from psychological issues due to unnatural stress or environment. Animals in a circus will never experience a natural life, running, playing, jumping, and socializing with their fellow animals. And while there are laws regarding animal care in circuses, they establish meager, inadequate standards that often aren't enforced. And the Garden Brothers Circus in particular has failed to meet minimum standards of care, AWA, American Welfare Act, and violated USDA standards on 40 occasions since 2007. So I just want to let the people out know that I'm going to be voting no on this, and that's my reasoning for it. I think as a town, if we're going to be proactive in trying to help the animals, then I can't support this. Sorry, Laurie. I don't know if anybody has anything to
I
add
have
to
a
that.
question on this.
Sure.
Based on liability for us, does this affect any liability with the town at all?
No, we had the
None.
same situation last year. I think Chief Aguirre's here. John, 3 uniformed officers there with, especially 1 or 2 on the back to make sure that the animals were not mistreated.
Yeah, I mean, we're out there the whole time, the circus, they're out where they're on.
We had the same situation
Yeah.
last year, and the same concerns that Councilman Messier brought up were brought to our attention. I think they used either one or two different circuses, either in Connecticut or Massachusetts, as an example of what was going on. So the police department went the extra yard to make sure that there was enough uniformed personnel up there, especially behind the curtains, to make sure that no bull hooks, no electric prods, no whips, nothing like that was used at the West Warwick Civic Center.
We advised the circus owner at the time about the law, if there is a state law of no bull hooks, so, I mean, we're not there 24/7.
yeah,
We're
yeah.
there during the
When
shows.
they're in West Warwick for that short period of time. Of course,
Correct.
yeah. I know there was no issues here last year in particular. I remember that was a concern of mine afterwards when it was brought to my attention.
Any other comment? Hearing none. For the record, Councilman Messier is voting no on the circus event. As far as everything else, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
To the circus.
To the circus.
Aye
So you're aye for everything else?
for everything else, no to the circus.
Correspondence. Resolved that the consent agenda having been posted, all matters being referred to the proper departments and being disposed or awaiting recommendation, the same is hereby approved.
You need to speak into a mic. Nobody can hear you back there.
I'll move the resolution.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Discussion?
I'm going to, are we talking about this as a whole?
No, this is just,
This is just a consent
Okay.
agenda.
you're not voting on it.
You're not
Till
voting
next
on
one.
it. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it.
Fees and charges sponsored by Councilman Goslin.
Al?
So we're gonna move the resolution?
Oh,
I'll move the resolution.
Second.
Al?
Getting ahead of me, Al.
This goes into our fee schedule. The first item, we had drain layers in the building office fees. They were no longer building office, they're waste management, and they're really no longer wastewater because the state does it. However, I talked to Chris, and wastewater wants them in their fee schedule, which comes later in that section, in case it goes back to them from the state. The other was some corrections. We did not have the $4 fee for the bags for mattresses. The pump station, these others were submitted to me by wastewater management, and that the changes that they have made, as a matter of fact, that what the fee schedule says is that they vote annually on the fees. And this is to update your fee schedule. That's just basically, every year we go through this where I contact different department heads for changes in fees. And this is the beginning of it.
Can I ask a question? Have we noticed an uptick in maybe Freddie, is Freddie here? I don't know if we have we seen more mattresses now since the bag fee has been put in place? I know it's only $4, but are people dumping more mattresses because of that now?
I don't know.
Pete, you need to come up to the mic. You know, I heard you, but there's mattresses behind Rite Aid. Mattresses have always been a problem in the town, whether it's been with bags or no bags. Actually, we have Councilman Giroux in the crowd, and he was a big proponent for that at one time. And until we get our own process in here and how we're gonna pick these things up immediately, it's the only way we're gonna ever resolve this issue.
No, and I understand the reason for the fee. It's because one mattress, and did we have a contaminated load recently?
Well, it all
Did
depends.
we have a whole contaminated load? And I know then it contaminates however many mattresses fit in there, so I understand the reason for it. I just don't want it to be a deterrent for people to. And they can just get the bags right at DPW, I think, right?
Correct. Al? What else is on here? You got, can I ask the privately owned pump stations, how many do we have in town?
I have no idea.
'Cause it's going from 0 to 1,000.
We had the number.
This was given to me, what happens is when I sent out the update of
Yep.
the code, this was given to me by wastewater. I mean, these are numbers that, I don't have any input on. This is what they voted on, and I have no idea where they come from.
There's quite a few that aren't maintained, and we put special criteria to it, special certain fines. And Jim Jeremiah was sending his guys out, and that's a good question for me to bring up to get
I can say
On that.
about wastewater that every year when I come before the council for various fee changes, wastewater has been probably the most accurate, most immediate with responses, and very, very detailed in what, when I send out the requests, they are very detailed, they're on point. So yeah, I just take their fees, I have no way of knowing what they're doing, but each year there's been changes and, you know, since I've been doing this.
I'll get that.
Any questions for Al? Any public comment? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it.
Ordinance number 2018-6, first reading, sponsored by Council President Goslin, and ordinance amending Chapter 14, Police, Article 9, Security Alarm Regulations of the Code of Ordinances of the Town of West Warwick.
I'll move the ordinance.
Second.
This is the first one that, under the code ordinance update, I met with Chief Barris and John Botello. The first section of it, under reserved, and you'll notice that the basic change there, well, the first section is that, wait a minute, I'm in the wrong ordinance. Which one was this, Paul?
2018-6, the police article.
6. Okay, this was the one that I met with the Chief Barris and John Botello. The first thing that they brought up was the fact that the fire department no longer has this automatic dialing system. It's all direct connect. It's a distinction in the system that if there's a fire in a commercial establishment, how the contact is made with the fire department. So it's a new system, and all we did there was we corrected the language in the ordinance to show what it is today. There has been, in the past, a user's permit that the people have to get, and the ordinance said it was a $10 fee, and all I did there was put it in line. As the council knows, we've been going through this, and every time we find an ordinance with a fee, I change it to a fee set from time to time by resolution. The next section was that this was a little different. It spoke about a fine, and it said it would be by resolution of the council. Well, the council can set fees by resolution, but not fines. So I looked at other ordinances, other communities, and I put in the $75, which seemed to be reasonable with the rest of it. The next section was, again, this was asked by John Botello about people using an alarm system that is improper, fees set from time to time. The big change comes on the page, the third page, where we are presently collecting a one-time fee for a registration application. These are the connections to the fire department. The major change there is that the fire department is requesting that it be put into a fee that's in the contractor's account, that if Chief is here, they can explain that. And the other thing that they've asked is that we now get a one-time application fee, but they're asking for an annual fee. And as I understand it, that annual fee would be to offset when wires come down or something and they gotta go out and fix it. But
in that first, that section 1457A, that already exists. there's a one-time hookup fee, and it goes into that contractor's account. Line B, there shall be an annual fee in the amount set by resolution. It's already there, but we've never, ever charged for this. John Patel's did some research in other cities and towns. They, he has all that information, what towns, what they charge. And what we're proposing is, this would be for maintenance, like we just had now with this storm. We've been out there for 2 days fixing a lot of our lines after the electric company has put everything back up. And now I have to go out and buy more wire, more connectors and all. So that line has always been there, but we've never charged for it. And we just like to set a fee for that.
One of the questions I might respond to is that normally when I submit an ordinance, and then I say it's a fee to be set by the council, I usually at the same time submit a resolution setting that fee. The council will note that I'm submitting to the council the approval of a fee to be set by resolution. The reason I'm not submitting at this point in time the fee that the fire department will be requesting is using the annual fee as an example. For them to just arbitrarily say, we are going to charge $50 a year, if the real charge is $25 a year, you can't make money on a fee. You gotta be charging to get reimbursement. So when we went over this, when I met with John and the chief and came up with this proposal, what we did when I spoke with them is that if the council sees fit to pass this, then they are going to look at what their cost of maintenance is, how many people it services, so that the cost can then be divided by the number of people, so that we're not charging $50 if it should be $25.
Who's this fee gonna be who's it gonna go on? What fee? Who's gonna pay for this? We're putting another fee onto a business, right?
You're putting a fee onto a business where other cities and towns have done the same. Any business that has a master box, a master fire alarm box that is attached to the fire department municipal system that we maintain. So those fire alarm boxes you see on the poles are maintained by us. They still work. People don't realize it. You go pull the hook, we're gonna get an alarm. But all these businesses that are required to put a fire alarm system in a master box that is transmitted to us, they have to have that box. We provide the system, we stop at the weatherhead. They have to provide the fire alarm box and the fire alarm system within the building.
So
We stop at the weatherhead.
They're already burdened by sprinklers, fire alarms. I mean, I understand where you're coming from, but their tax dollars that they're paying on a business pays you guys to inspect them. You're on town time while you're inspecting them. Now you want us to implement another fee to put on the businesses that it.
Councilman, it doesn't go in my pocket. I don't.
Listen, I understand that,
But
John.
what I'm trying to say is, I don't want to
But-
burden the town's budget with me going out to spend $5,000 on a roll of cable because a line goes down during a storm. I have to go out and buy a spool of cable for $5,000 to replenish, to make sure that system stays working. Over the weekend, we had a major circuit that was down. Westview Nursing Home was down for 48 hours. Bridal Avenue Mill was down for 48 hours. I couldn't go up there and fix it because
But that's
National
not-
Grid was still up there.
That's not the business's concern.
Well,
That's not
It's gonna
their
come out of the
concern.
budget anyway. We're gonna pay for it. The taxpayers are gonna pay for it some way or another anyway.
I just don't want to, I was trying not to burden the town. I was taking suggestions from other cities and towns that have fire alarm systems. The city of Providence charges.
What are they charging?
They charge $500 a box.
Do you have an estimate, an idea of what
I
we
would never,
charge?
no, I don't,
Suggest?
because
What happened?
I know you're gonna divide it up, but have you already thought about that? No.
What happened was when I got in a discussion with them, and they came up, and John was talking about Providence and what have you, and I said, well, wait. I said, we can't make money in this fee. I said, what you're looking for is to be reimbursed for the money you spend to keep this system working. So the only way that I could figure out to do it is for John to look at over past years, this is what it's cost us each year.
And the majority of cities and towns charge a fee.
Not the majority.
No, not the majority, no. Only cities and towns that have 100 milliamp municipal systems, which are wired systems. We still have a wired system, and Councilman Goslin, you know about wires and
Well,
and
that's what I was
maintaining
gonna
them.
say. Well, I have a question for you.
Go ahead.
And it's probably a better solution. Why would we charge somebody $75 a year when they may never have a problem? Why aren't we charging the person who's having the problem? Down drop, you charge that business for the
It's not the down drop, though, because the problem is, when Circuit 10 went down this week, it wasn't a specific business. That line that broke was on, off of Park Boulevard on St. George Street.
Okay.
So once that line broke, that broke the circuit. So it really wasn't a specific business that broke the system. There have been in the past, but we've gone out, we've fixed the problem, and
But why aren't we looking at that? We are looking, if you're looking to charge a fee, I understand, but we should also be charging the individuals that are having, for instance, a truck comes in the parking lot, tears it down,
oh, we do that.
right? We should be charging
We
that
do.
business. You do?
Auto accidents, whenever we have an auto accident gets charged through the insurance company.
We chase that down.
One of the things, Angelo, is that we did not put this language into the
It's already
ordinance.
here.
The language for the initial fee and the annual fee has been here.
But there's no fee at
We've
all.
never implemented.
We never implemented it.
No.
It's never been implemented.
So, you know, like I said, I'm not gonna put another tax onto a business that they're already burdened with what they have already. First of all, none of them wanted, since the station fire, everything went crazy. So, you know, pretty soon, we're not gonna need any firemen, because everything's gonna put itself out, and maybe
That's
you're
how it
gonna get
works.
an elevator
I didn't know that's how it worked.
If
to
I-
go,
if I might make
well,
a
you know,
suggestion-
people who understand business, I'm not for this. I understand what you're saying, John.
Councilman, I'm not for
appreciate
it.
it.
I gotta be honest with you, I'm not, excuse me.
No.
I'm not
And I
for it
appreciate
either.
it.
Because when I go out to businesses and I do business inspections, and I think you know this, and you and I have dealt together on your business.
Yep.
We're business friendly.
Exactly.
We do not want to implement
John,
and put
well,
fees
guys,
on it.
we're all gentlemen.
So I don't want to do that. Only thing I was trying to do was recoup, and
Yeah.
when Al DiFiore came to me and we sat down and looked at this and we went line by line, and he says, does anybody else do this? And I said, yes, and I made some phone calls and found out that other cities and towns did this. It was an idea, we brought it to you. If you don't want it, that's fine. But I was told to come here tonight just to explain.
Can we wait and see what the fee is
Yeah,
gonna be
that's
before we
what I
make a
was
decision?
I was just gonna-
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, we'd like to know what the fee, like an estimate of what the fee might be.
What I would like to suggest to the council is you go ahead and pass this ordinance. The ordinance sets it in. Once they've come to me with fees, and I come before you with the fee resolution, at that point in time, you can do what you've already done, say, I don't approve that fee. It's in here in case, just like it's.
Al, in all due respect, why put the cart before the
It's
horse?
in there. We're not putting any cuts.
Well, it's in there, but why even vote, why even take action on this until we know? I mean, I'm against any fee. If it's $1, I'm against the fee.
But the fact of the matter is, you're not taking action on it. It's already there. The only reason this came up was because of my upgrading the code. And when we upgraded the code, we saw this language was in there. And the basic purpose of this language was if the council decided to implement that fee, it was gonna go into a special fund. The fact of the matter is, that's the only change being made. If this is left as it is, the council's in the same position today, tomorrow, as it was yesterday, and the council does, until the council institutes a fee, there is no fee. But if the council someday wants to institute the fee, then we're gonna have to come back and do this all over again. So my advice is to just leave things as they are, and when I come before you for a resolution, say, I'll take that resolution, I'm not passing it. That's what I would advise the council.
Director Vitello, how many boxes are there?
Currently,
Currently.
on the 100 milliamp system, there's 228 master boxes.
How many are in businesses though? Because you said some of them are not.
Master
in business.
boxes, no, master boxes are considered business boxes. Street boxes are the ones that are on the telephone poles.
But I think residential also, like,
No.
say a six-family or a.
Nope, that was the other thing that came to mind. When the fire code was modified a few years back, after the station fire, the fire code was modified that any apartment building, 8 units or more, needed a master box. That has since been changed to 12 units or more. So that relieves some of the business owners
So
there.
residential does have master boxes also.
Yes, and then, but with businesses, and we've been actually helping businesses, we met with a business today that is gonna be moving in. Councilman D'Amico, you asked me about that business moving into your ward. He, at the present time, it has a master box, but to talk about being business friendly, we help this business say, listen, you may need a sprinkler system if you leave your occupancy the way it is and leave your square footage the way it is. But if you do this, this, and this, you won't need a sprinkler system. So that's $40,000, $50,000 he doesn't have to spend, but he can still move into his building at a considerable lesser cost. So we've been helping these businesses
Well,
try to
John,
get around them.
in all due respect, that's what we're here for.
Exactly.
We're here to be business friendly, because if you
Exactly.
weren't, then maybe you'd be in front of us with complaints, and then we could take.
And you never get them, do you?
Not at all.
But I just want to make this aware that the system is out there. It needs to be maintained, but it does take some type of money to maintain it.
I've been dealing with Cranston, and they're going wireless with a lot of their box systems.
Okay, over the last 2 years,
Where are
we've already
we?
done that. We've already done that.
We're starting to convert.
We're starting that. So what Assistant Director Zeno and I have been doing with businesses is, if a new business comes into town and needs a master box, we've been going the wireless system. Okay, and there is still some maintenance fees required with that on our end.
Are we looking to, and this is what Cranston's doing.
I know what they're
this
doing.
Because they knocked at my door. And
I know they did.
They're looking to convert all the wired to
I know,
wireless.
but we don't want to do that because it's not business friendly.
No, I'm just saying.
$3,000 to $6,000 for some of it.
Well, and again.
Another
well,
expense.
Exactly.
I understand that, but you're talking about maintenance of wires. If we're going wireless, that maintenance and that fee of $75 or whatever it may be would not have to be implemented
But
because
it's
they're
gonna be
wireless.
more on the other end.
But what we were, the chief and I had discussed.
Wired's gonna be antiquated, Angelo. Eventually, those wired, everything's gonna be antiquated. You're not gonna get parts for systems. We've run into that in a lot of systems in the fire department.
The difference between, let me just tell you the difference between the wired and the wireless, and I can just use one example, is when Kenny Townsend put a new master box up at the high school and the middle school last summer after they got hit by lightning and they blew out their entire system. Kenny Townsend went with with a radio box, a wireless system. With that radio box, it has we installed a portion of the radio box to be a lockdown. If the school goes into a lockdown, whether for whatever reason they go into a lockdown, that box gets transmitted to the fire department and also gets transmitted to the police department through their wireless system, through ADT. But we get it first at the fire station. You can't do that with a wired system. That one of the teachers hits that lockdown button, the computer screen flashes in blue, states that there's a lockdown at the school, notify police. Nothing.
School safety.
School, exactly. So that is a benefit of a wireless radio box system. You can't do that with a wired system. So that's why, and so we're basically going to stay with both systems. Maintain the wired system as we go, and anything new coming along, we give them the option. Go to a wireless system.
Businesses have their fire alarm systems for so long, they're gonna have to change it out someday.
Rocks Market just did that.
Said
When
they're
they,
gonna be wireless.
when they remodeled Rocks Market recently, we gave them the option. You want to stay with this wired system, or would you like to go with a wireless
Like for a
system?
new business, what's the price difference if they were gonna get wired or wireless?
Actually, you know what? It's really not much of a difference. It matters how many bells and whistles they want to add. We don't tell them what they need. We just need them to be able to transmit an alarm from their establishment to the fire station.
So most new businesses, it's probably beneficial to do.
Oh, yeah, and they like it better too. It's an easier system. It really is.
I guess what his question was, how much does the system
Oh,
cost, depending on?
a basic, the fire alarm box, a basic box right now, if a small business wanted to move in, $2,500.
For the wire,
For the wireless.
For the wireless?
For the wireless is $2,500, and that comes all, that's not installation, that's just the whole package. Antenna,
How
box.
about for a wired if they didn't have,
wired?
if they didn't have a system? Or if they need to get a new system?
We allow two different types of wired boxes in this town, either the old Gamewell box that you see out there, which are tougher to get and tougher to maintain and repair because it's an old antiquated system, or you can get an electronic type box, which is still wired, but it's an electronic digitized box, they call it, but you're still on the wired system. Those are about $4,000 to $8,000 as
It's cheaper
opposed.
for the wireless.
Correct.
So if a new business is coming in, it's beneficial to get the wireless because
We
it's
tell
cheaper
them
and
that.
it's more effective.
We tell them that, yes. Just to tell them that, yeah.
Well, I'd like to make a motion to move the amendments to this ordinance minus a fee structure until a later date.
Well, I think you can't what
Can't do
Al's
that.
looking for.
The fee structure's already in the ordinance.
So would it be the,
Well, like Al
You're
said, there's
asking-
no fee in here as of right now. It's already been in.
It would have to
here.
come back to us before you put a
would
fee
have
in.
to come back as a resolution.
I don't even, all due respect to everyone, I don't even wanna take any action at this at all, because I'd be voting no. I don't even wanna entertain it. That's my opinion, so put me down as a no.
Well, can I ask this? Your objection is to the fee section.
My objection is to the whole thing. It's gonna be, I don't even wanna entertain this ordinance, because sooner or later, let another council, if they feel different than I do, I deal with businesses constantly on a daily basis, and I own 3 businesses myself, and a few that I might have a little vested interest in. And this is another tax on a businessman that gives him more reason not even to bother.
But let me point out that you got two different.
I understand where you're coming from,
No, wait,
Al,
I'm not even
but I'm
talking.
totally against
I'm
it.
not talking about the fees. I'm talking about the fact that part of this ordinance deals with the fact that we no longer have automatically dialed. We now have direct connection. And I want to change the ordinance for that section of it that says we don't have automatic dialing. We have direct connect. So rather than kill the whole ordinance, I mean,
And what happens if this ordinance just died right here?
Then I gotta come back to you in the next meeting.
so I want to make sure I understand. So in other words, my understanding
get it.
is that we are just updating the old language from the automatic dialing system to
Part
the
of it.
direct connect alarm system,
May I make a
which
suggestion?
the ordinance is already there.
May I make a suggestion that instead of voting against it, that the matter be tabled? I'm coming before the council, April 3rd, that the matter be tabled until April 3rd, and let me submit an amended version, deleting the fee sections from it, with the other sections that I feel very strongly are necessary to be what is happening in the town today, and that you then take another look at it as amended on April 3rd, rather than just shooting this whole
By
thing
April
down.
3rd, will we know what the fees would be by April 3rd, though?
No, because they're not gonna get into.
Fees, who said anything about fees? You're saying no fees, he's saying
No,
fees.
that's what I'm
And that's what it's gonna come out to.
No, I'm saying to you.
Someone that don't have a business and don't care if it got a fee.
I am saying to you, give me the chance to amend this so that I remove the sections for the possibility of fees. And then at that point in time, the council, I think, should accept the part that is the meat of it, putting in that you're gonna have direct connects as opposed to automatically dialing systems. That'll be the meat of it. Then if Councilman Messier decides he wants to add a section regarding fees, that would be an amendment at that time. But I would like the opportunity to bring back to this council what I feel is necessary to bring this ordinance into what is actually happening in this town without any fees in it.
So you're suggesting tabling this one right now?
Table it until
I think
March,
that's reasonable.
I'll make a motion to table it.
A
I'll
second.
second.
until on the calendar for March 3rd.
April 3rd.
April
My
third,
next
April
council
3rd.
is March 20th or April 3rd.
April
Al's coming.
3rd,
April, you're gonna be back April 3rd.
because I've got other
Yeah.
matters coming up on April 3rd.
Yeah.
All in favor of the table?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Opposed? Ayes have it.
Thank you, Al.
Ordinance number 2018-7. First reading sponsored by Councilman Licciardi, an ordinance amending Chapter 12.5 Parks and Recreation, Article 3 McCarthy Field, Section 12.5-34, ground maintenance of the Code of Ordinances of the Town of West Warwick.
I'll move the ordinance.
I'll second.
This is another housekeeping matter where the ordinance, when the property isn't maintained after it's been used, the ordinance presently says at the rate of $100 per hour per person, which we've gone through this. It can't be set by ordinance. It just says that it's going to be set at a rate by resolution of the council. And if the council passes this, then when I come back in April, I'll put in the recommended $100 an hour, which it's always been by resolution as opposed to by ordinance. And for the new councilman, I've explained it before, leaving it this way, if the council decided to go to $75 or to $125, you gotta have a first reading, an advertising, a second reading, where by resolution, you just pass what you want for a fee. So I'd ask that this be passed.
Now, just the redacted part, says $1,000.
This is $1,000.
That's my good typing.
I'll clean for 1,000.
Well, even if it's
It's redacted anyway.
even if it's 100, I mean, we're talking trash, and that's neglect. I think there's more damage that can be done on a field than trash. Trash is something you just pick up. There's questions that I'll have for you going forward, because this is just about McCarthy Field. We have many other fields in town, and a field is a field. It doesn't matter where it is. I mean, a lot can happen. I think more damage can be done to other fields than McCarthy, because McCarthy is right there.
And it's locked.
Right. So, that's something that we'll talk about pretty soon.
Just to clarify, McCarthy's really not even open to the public unless it's rented. Gates are locked. Ray Silver's open to the public, which is right behind there.
Well, again,
Soccer fields.
this, for the council, again, this came about with my task of updating the code, where the first time I did this, you know, I thought I had found all the fees set by ordinance, and again, this was just one I found as housekeeping to put it into resolution as opposed to ordinance.
Thank you. Any other comment from the council? Any public comment? Hearing none, roll call vote. Jay?
Yes.
Angelo?
Yes.
Jason?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
And I vote yes.
Ordinance number 2018-8, first reading sponsored by President Goslin, an ordinance amending Chapter 5 Buildings, Article 1, in General, Chapter 8 Garbage and Trash, Article 1, in General, Article 5 Garbage Refuses Dumpsters, Article 7 Rules and Regulations for Collection and Disposal of Rubbish, Chapter 15 Residential, Commercial, and Industrial Users of the Regional Wastewater Treatment Facility, Use Ordinance of the Code of Ordinance of the Town of West Warwick.
I'll move the ordinance.
Second.
Moved and seconded, discussion.
All right, by way of background to this, again, going up with this code update, I spoke with the manager about the fact of what did I do about the fact that we don't have a building official and we have a building section, and he asked me to take a look at it based on my experience in representing the building code. I did that. I worked with Pam up in the building office, and I also spoke with a couple of other state building officials that I'm friendly with to get some advice. So that the work that came in here, that's for the council's background, how it came about. The section 5-3, the reason that's eliminated is we've never done it, so I just cleared it out of the ordinance. The section on bond prerequisites, the only thing I did there was it said a moving permit. It's a building moving permit, so I added the word building, that's what that's about. When we got into, again, the depositing on a vacant lot, generally, all I did was a little bit of language correction to make it seem more sensible to me, dividing it into a section 1 and a section 2 saying maintaining. It was strictly semantics on that. When we got into 805 rules and regulations, on this section, Pam in the building office had some problems with the way it read. I then discussed this with Fred Gill and with Nicole. In this language is basically putting into effect what is actually being done down at DPW, and it's been being done. It was, again, correcting language that I can tell you that this didn't come before you without my submitting it to Fred and to Nicole and saying, is this what's happening? And they both confirmed that, yes, this is now, as a matter of fact, Nicole was very good. She put a lot of language, gave it to me, and I basically put it into ordinance form. The final section, again, was the drain layers license, which had been in the building office, but the building office didn't do it. It moved from building office to wastewater, and wastewater did it for a while, but then the state took it over, and when I talked with wastewater, they said, look, we don't know if the state's gonna give it back to us, so since it's in your ordinance, why don't you just leave it there, only with the proper department? So that's where that came about. And as I say on this, the language here was primarily done through the very good cooperation of our department heads on giving me the guidance as to put into language what's actually going on in the town today.
Any questions for Al? The only thing, I know it's a little off topic, but a little bit to do with this ordinance, especially with mattresses and bulk trash. One of the things that we need to look at, maybe just budget season, is looking at opening more on after hours. Right now, we're open from 7 to 2:30, minus lunch and breaks down at DPW, and people are taking time out of work to go down there, only to find we might be on lunch or break or something, and they're closed and they can't get in. I know we're open one Saturday a month, but we're not really advertising it also. So, to help prevent some of this bulk waste going on the streets, we need to advertise that we're open that one Saturday and make sure we're open that one Saturday. So we're preventing some of this from hitting the streets. Any other comment? No. Public comment? Anna, come to the mic.
Anna Golderisi, Carpenter Court. Just in response to what you just said, why have more hours? Why don't you just schedule the people at DPW so it's always open? You have enough people there, you just fluctuate the lunch times.
Anna, I don't disagree with you.
Okay, I'm glad to hear that.
That's all I got.
Hearing none, roll call vote. Jay?
Yes.
Angelo?
Yes.
Jason?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
And I vote yes.
Before we leave that topic of the code ordinance, I just want to inform the council that I have once again sent out a notice requesting updates, and today I think I got 5 more departments responding, so that I had spoken with Dave about the fact that since these things are going to be coming in, that you'll see a lot of them sponsored by Councilman Goslin, who knows nothing about them, but he's just given me permission to put them on the.
Don't say that. You send them to me, I read them.
Well,
and then
I
say
meant,
yes.
but I'm saying, I'm putting them down, sponsored by you, before you've had a chance to read them.
Well, normally,
So-
if it has something to do with somebody's, like the library, if I
Yeah,
notice
yeah,
it's something
no.
in somebody's ward, I tell you to put it towards them and I give them a heads
Yeah,
up.
on the Public Works, I had that sponsored by Councilman Licciardi. But, in general, I want to say that I am beginning to get more cooperation, and the code update is moving along and as mandated by the charter.
Thank you.
Thank you, Al.
With this, I'm not looking to get personal, but is there a timetable when we're going to have a return of our building official? Ernie?
Yes, he is on an approved leave until the middle of April.
Okay.
And we do have Bob Asselon?
Yeah, Bob
from Coventry,
Asselon from Coventry, their building official, is assisting us during this time
Per
period.
diem.
Okay.
Yeah, he's on an hourly rate for the work that he does. His work is bundled, for inspection. So when he
Right,
comes
okay.
in, he handles a lot of them at the time. So he's been assisting us during this time.
In a
Thank
couple of matters, one involving Councilman Messier, the one down on Main Street. When I contacted him about that situation, I can report to the council that he was very helpful. When I said we needed him on an inspection, when would it be convenient to him, his answer was at your town's discretion, and apparently
No, he's been covering really well for us.
from what I gather from the report out of Shana, he was very helpful on that with us.
Thank you.
Good to hear. Thank you, Al.
Cancellation of taxes. Resolved that the attached cancellation in the amount of $6,316.95 presented to the tax collector for approval of the town council in accordance with Article 25, Section 5 of the West Warwick Code of Ordinance is hereby approved. Original list is filed in the Office of Tax Collector.
I'll move the resolution.
I do have to recuse myself from this matter, so I'm sorry.
I'll second the resolution. Any discussion? Any public discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote. Jay?
Yes.
Angelo?
Yes.
Jason?
Yes.
And I vote yes.
I didn't see that.
Cancellation of taxes, resolved that the attached cancellation in the amount of $449.94 presented to the tax assessor for approval of the town council in accordance with Article 25, Section 5 of the West Warwick Code of Ordinance is hereby approved. Original list is filed in the Office of Tax Assessor.
I'll move the resolution.
Second.
Moved and second, any discussion? Any public discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Town manager's report.
Yes. Mr. President, I have two items. First is to bring the council's attention to an act that was adopted by Congress last year. They adopted the Tax Cut and Jobs Act of 2017. And this act created federal opportunity zones, a program. And it's designed to attract private investment for the creation of new businesses, expansion of existing businesses, or real estate projects. Investors under this program are eligible to receive significant tax incentives for reinvesting capital gains in opportunity zone approved improvements or construction. Right now, the governors statewide, nationally, can authorize up to 25% of their low-income census tract opportunity zones for consideration by the Department of Treasury. In Rhode Island's case, they have the ability to recommend 25 census zone tracts. I think there's over well over 100 eligible census tracts. So they put this list together. Where West Warwick has two census tracts to qualify. One certainly is in the Arctic area. So the town will be completing a questionnaire for inclusion to this program. The state will review these submissions and recommend up to 25 to be submitted to the Department of Treasury. They will review and they will select those census tracts that will be eligible for this program. It'll be highly competitive, so there's no certain guarantee that our submission would be accepted by the state, and if it is accepted by the state, that it would be approved by the Department of Treasury. But, you know, the town has a lot of good information to supply for consideration. And again, this is for investors who have significant funds from capital gains that are looking to invest in these areas and receive sizable tax advantages. So I want to make the council aware that we will be submitting a questionnaire, is what they call it, for inclusion into this program.
Is this something that could be used somehow in cooperation with pre-existing med zones?
The simple answer to the question is yes. The town has never activated the med zone.
Right.
It does exist as statutory.
But can you,
Yes.
one on top of the other?
Yes, and that's exactly, the recommendation is we'll be recommending Arctic in the redevelopment district for inclusion in the program. And that is where the med zone is.
This sounds great for new businesses, but what about the existing businesses that have been around for a long time? I think, you know, it's almost like to compare, you get this flyer in the mail, if you subscribe to Verizon, you have this great deal. What about the person who's been there for 10 years with Verizon? What do you get? You get a thank you. Sorry, there's nothing I can do.
Right.
You know, is there anything on the horizon for the people plugging away that have been here for a long time?
Well, you know, this is a specific program for this purpose. If other programs are available that we can apply for, certainly we would do that to assist any local business in their expansion activities.
Okay. Just a thought. Thank you.
Any other questions for Ernie on that?
The second item is, as we're getting close to, our budget submittal and then the department reviews and public hearings, the original calendar that we submitted for the budget schedule, notice that the first budget workshop was scheduled for the 20th, and review, the 20th is a council meeting night. I'd recommend that we change that to the following Thursday, if that's agreeable to the council, the 22nd. And these meetings last year had started at 6:30, so we propose to start the same.
Why not next Monday or Tuesday? There's no council meeting, and Mondays and Tuesdays.
Are they gonna be prepared, is the question.
Well, the budget is required to be submitted on the 19th, which is a Monday. And that's what we will do. Hopefully, if we can have it done sooner, we would. But,
It would be easier for me on a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Fridays are kind of tough for me.
Well, Angelo, that's what he's saying, the following Tuesday. So instead of the 20th, the 27th, we would meet here and start the budget session.
On a Tuesday.
On a Tuesday.
well, we
You
have,
said Thursday.
well,
You said
the-
Thursday,
yeah,
27th?
Thursday,
No, he said
yeah,
Thursday.
Thursday's the 22nd. The Tuesday, the 20th is a council meeting night. Now, we could do Wednesday, if that's Wednesday's
Well, why
easier.
can't we go to following Tuesday?
Yeah.
Oh, that is scheduled already.
It is?
The 27th is, the following Tuesday is scheduled.
Yeah, we're gonna run out of time.
Or we could do a Monday, Tuesday, or do a Wednesday, whatever is most convenient.
I have no problem.
I'm probably gonna come across a little rude here because,
Sure.
first of all, I'd like to know how the school department already has their budget done. First of all, they have a budget book just like this, just like ours.
Mhm.
They're already prepared, they're already got it before us. They've already approved their budget to come before us. Why are we going into the end of March with a budget? And I know this is your first budget with us, and I know this is Kristen's first
Right.
budget with us. But, and I know there's been a lot of other things going on that you've been dealing with. But I think, especially after this year, we need to start focusing on this in February. So we're ready for March. We're not running out of time, or people have to work, or people can't get here. I know personally, Constable Abdul has been very busy lately. You never see him home when you drive by his house anymore. I used to catch him home 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the afternoon. That's non-existent.
Maybe 2, 3 in the morning.
And I'm not visiting him then. We do get tied up at this time of year.
Right. Well, I would say, going forward, certainly that can be accommodated. Again, this was a
But this
little
year we have
unusual
to
year,
work.
and when we looked at the schedule, seeing that the requirement is submittal on the third Monday, so that's what we were geared up for.
So-
But clearly,
So let
clearly
me
we
ask
can
you,
change
if we
it.
go on to the Thursday, in previous councils, and Angelo can attest to this, and actually Councilman Giroux can attest to this, we gotta set a limit, because we start getting a little punch drunk looking at all these numbers.
Mhm.
And there was a night we were here till 1 in the morning,
Okay.
going through this budget.
Right.
So, I'm fine if you're gonna go with Thursday, but, maybe we're done by 8:30 or 9 o'clock.
Can we start earlier?
6 to 9 was always plenty of time when we did it last time.
I mean, if we go 6 to 9 on that Thursday, does that affect anybody?
22nd?
That's fine.
Instead of
Yes,
breaking it up during the week, why don't we just go Monday and Tuesday, back to back, 6 to 9?
That following Monday and Tuesday? Fine with that.
I mean, that'd be easier for me, as long as the rest of you
What are the
can.
dates?
Yeah,
So
what
what
are
are
the
let me get the calendar.
It's up to you guys.
I need to see if the chambers is available too.
Throw everybody out.
So when's the
Yeah,
first,
throw
when's the
everybody
first
out, go
one?
upstairs.
No, other people do conduct business in the chambers, the planning board, pension board. But, the pension board has accommodated, we can put them upstairs. The planning board, depending on what's the docket, sometimes it's very light, one item, they can go upstairs in the manager.
Nothing on the planning board till the first Monday of April.
Thank you, Al.
So we have a council meeting on the 20th, right?
So
then
we
what
have a
nights do we-
calendar date of the 26th and 27th. Does anybody have an issue with that?
Both nights.
Monday and Tuesday, right?
Okay.
So March 26th and March 27th. 6 o'clock.
6 to 9?
6 to 9 or until needed. I mean, we'll get a
The 6th
pulse
of-
check.
The 26th of March? Yeah, that doesn't work for me, but.
What else do we have?
Can I get the calendar?
Fine.
I'm gonna me just get my calendar, just make sure that the changes.
on the
No, for the changes.
Much.
All right, while Paul is doing that, any other questions for the town manager? I do have, one, do we have, I know you're not gonna share the update, but how are we making out with, police and fire and arbitration, and, do we need to have another meeting to discuss that?
Yeah, I would suggest that at this point, tentatively schedule an executive session before the next meeting. But again, there's nothing firm, but
Is that too much time? Do we need to meet like next Tuesday, an executive session?
Can it wait till the 20th? Or no?
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Is it time sensitive?
I don't believe so, no. If it is, I will let you know, but I don't believe so.
Executive session, 6 o'clock? 6 o'clock?
Monday and Tuesday.
Yes.
Jason has a
20th.
The 26th is a rec committee meeting
what?
at 6:30.
You got your rec committee meeting, the
At
26th.
6:30.
Can we start the 19th? Is that too soon?
Hasn't happened in 10 months.
Can we start the 19th? Is that too soon?
I'm fine with Monday the 19th. Does anybody have any issues with Monday the 19th?
Nope.
So we'll meet,
6 to 9, is that correct?
March 19th, 6 to 9, right?
Correct, 6 to 9, is that correct?
yeah.
Nothing on the
So
26th?
We have a council meeting on the 20th,
20th.
Yeah.
and then another budget meeting on the 27th. And then what's the next one after that?
What happened to the 22nd?
Well, we're not gonna do it.
We're not doing the
Angela had a
22nd.
hard time with the
Okay,
22nd.
not doing the 26th.
Jason had a hard time with the
So the
26th.
19th, the 27th is going to be 6 to 9 as well, correct?
Yep.
6 to 9 is just going to be the standard
Yeah.
time.
19,
Right.
20, and 27.
Well, we had two proposed, because that's following last year's calendar that we had, so if council would like a third, we can.
Well, we've definitely had more than 2 workshops last year. Now,
Yeah,
how
you
about
had-
public workshops? You have 2 public
We
workshops.
have 2 public hearings.
Let me just clarify, we have council workshops, and then we have public workshops where
It's
the-
public hearing.
that 2 public hearings where the public can
Right.
participate. Normally, I don't, if somebody comes and they have an idea during the regular workshops, I do let them speak, but if it becomes very detailed, then we can let you speak at the public hearings. And that's what the public hearings are for, is for the public to speak at them.
So what are the dates for the public?
Did you have them on your calendar?
Yes, the dates for the public hearings, the first one would be Tuesday, April 3rd.
That's a council meeting.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the one Al's going to be.
All right.
Unless it's 6 to 7, but if there's,
Right, should be nine.
yeah, it depends. I know in the previous, the public hearings are gone within 20 minutes, but I just don't know.
Well, we can do 6 to 7. If it carries over, then we continue it, correct?
We could do that.
Those have to be advertised.
Just advertise it.
So 6 to 7 on the 3rd?
So April 3rd is public hearing,
That's fine.
6 o'clock.
Just send us an email on the dates, please.
And then there's a second.
In the next public hearing.
That's the next public hearing after the 3rd.
The 10th.
So if that carries over, just
Well, then
infinite.
we could spend 3 hours on the next public hearing.
Okay, I won't be here the 10th.
There you
I'm
go.
going to be away. I'm going to be in New Orleans that week. I'll be here for the 3rd, not for the 10th. Can we do it on the Wednesday?
Wednesday I can't.
Council, we'll play that by ear because if it's the public hearing, again, we've already worked through the budget.
We've already had one public hearing, it's
So-
just a second hearing.
Yeah, so, we can play it by ear. If we need to reschedule it to another night, then we can reschedule it.
I need to know because I could advertise that in the paper.
What's your notice of advertisement? How long do you need to advertise?
3 days, 48 hours.
Oh, we'll know, because on the 3rd,
Yeah.
if we're gonna go to the 10th, then we can advertise that Wednesday. We'll have plenty of time.
It's been advertised 3 times.
3 times? 3 days each? Or 3 times, 3
No, 3
consecutive days?
different times.
So if you
It's different in the
advertise,
paper. Like if I advertise for a public hearing for April 3rd, it has to run 3 times.
so April 3rd, we already have
So that's
solidified.
set in stone.
April 10th is not set in stone, so we'll know on the 3rd, and then you can advertise Wednesday, Thursday, Friday,
Even Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday is
It
still.
just needs it doesn't need 48 hours, it just needs 3 consecutive advertisements, correct? Thank you.
So the 10th at 6 PM.
Tentatively. Any other questions for the town manager? Thank you.
Appointments. Appointment for the West Warwick Board of Assessment Review. Resolved that the town council hereby appoints the following individual to serve as a member of the West Warwick Board of Review for the town of West Warwick with the term to expire on March of 2021.
I'll move the resolution.
Second.
Moved and seconded, any discussion?
Yeah, this is a reappointment for Patricia Lally. She's the only applicant, so I'll move the name of Patricia Lally.
I'll second.
This is a reappointment.
Yeah,
Is Patricia here tonight?
I didn't see her.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it.
Appointment for the West Warwick Housing Authority. Resolved that the town council hereby appoints the following individual to serve as a member of the West Warwick Housing Authority for the town of West Warwick with the term to expire on November of 2021.
I'll move the resolution,
Second.
and I'll move the name of Carol Bernero Hoxie, which is the daughter of the late Betty Bernero, who passed away and had that seat on the board. So she wants to fill her mother's seat, and she's the only applicant also.
I'll second.
This is the only application, because I did receive a couple of phone calls on this, I'm just confirming.
That was the only one I received.
I think it's, I don't know her, but just looking at the work experience in
No,
the background,
I'm not arguing
it's
it.
that's somebody that we'd want for that board.
And to make it clear, her father was the attorney for the housing board. Her mother, Betty Bernero, who Angela and I knew pretty well, unfortunately, she passed away this year, and she does want to fulfill her mother's, I want to say legacy, because that's what it was. Is Carol here tonight?
No.
I see, no. Any other comment? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it.
Appointment for the West Warwick Juvenile Hearing Board. Resolved that the town council hereby appoints the following individual to serve as a member of the West Warwick Juvenile Hearing Board for the town of West Warwick with the term to expire on December of 2021.
I'll move the resolution.
Second.
Moved and seconded, and I
I'm
think
recusing
Councilman
I'm gonna
Licciardi
recuse
will be
myself from
recusing
this.
himself.
I'm going to be bringing up the name of Anna Ramondo. Anna works with juveniles, the homeless. I think she'd be a great fit on this board. And again, there's no other applicant, so I'll move the name of Anna.
I would second that. I had the opportunity to serve on juvenile hearing for about a year. It's really an important service to our community. It's for a lot of families and for their children, sort of the last stop before family court. I think Anna would offer a lot. I had the pleasure of serving with her sister, and I think we couldn't find a better person for the position.
Any other comment? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Congratulations, Anna.
Thank you.
Discussion action. Update on playground on Factory Street, sponsored by Councilman Messier.
I'll have Mark Carullo come up in a minute, but there was a delay last year. Many know that Mark Carullo was our acting town manager, so he was juggling the job of town manager and town planner, which took up a few hours every day, I would think, Mark, at that time. There has long been $47,500 of Ward 3 money, which there was rumors that that's gone. That money is not gone. That money is still there. And there's a $100,000 grant, which has not expired. I know there were some rumors on Facebook and social media that the grant has expired or this project was not going forward. It has always been going forward. I even reached out to former Councilman Drew last night to reassure him that the project was going on. I like his beard that he's got going on there. And I invited him to be a part of the process as we go along for this playground, but I'll let Mark take it over from here.
Thank you, Councilman. As you know,
Sorry, just to reiterate, Councilman Drew, I know that you put the grant together, and Councilman Drew, I know this is kind of like his baby, his pet project, so that's why I reached out to Councilman Drew.
yes.
Sorry.
As you know, back in 2016, the state issued a request for applications for a active recreation grant. The town did submit 2 applications. One was for the Factory Street Playground, the other was for batting cages for the ball fields. The batting cages were not approved, but the Factory Street Playground was approved for the maximum allocation of $100,000. Back when we submitted the grant application, we combined that grant with some work that was being performed up at the Civic Center by Thunder Mist. You see some of the work has already taken place there. They built a gazebo and they've planted an orchard with regard to fruit trees and other types of bushes. So that has already been installed. And as the councilman mentioned, I was a little busy last year, so excuse me for not being able to pay 100% attention to this grant, but the grant does not expire until September 2018. So as we're going into the current construction season, I started to work on bid specifications, which we just recently completed. The bid specifications are structured such that we can simply just buy the equipment and install it ourselves, or we can have bidders bid on providing the equipment, building the playground and installing, or just have bidders come in and bid simply on installing and construction. So we've got 3 options built within the bid, and the bid is structured so that we can pick and choose the lowest price option regardless. So if someone comes with a combined bid, that's the lowest, we can do that. If someone just comes in with the equipment, it's the lowest for the equipment, we buy the equipment at the lowest price. If someone comes in for the construction at the lowest price, we can cherry pick that number and buy it at the lowest price and install it at the lowest price. The bid also contemplated using in-kind labor potentially for the installation of the playground, and that is still an option. It has not yet been determined. It really is going to be dependent on the value of the bids as they come in. So that everyone understands, the bid is an 80% state, 20% local. So in order for us to access the full $100,000, the minimum cost for the overall project has to be $125,000, so that we're reimbursed for $100,000. I believe Thunder Mist has already contributed close to $20,000, so the local match would need to be about $5,000. My time associated with this and writing these bid specs qualifies for the match, and other time that town individuals be looking at and working through also qualifies as a match. So it really is going to depend on the bids, how much they come in at, depending on how much we end up spending on the overall project. I did send the bid to DEM for review and approval, and they did respond back actually late this afternoon that the bid specifications are ready to go. So we'll probably be looking at sending them down to finance next week for publication and solicitation of bids over the next several weeks. And then at that point, we'll probably be looking at getting the bids in. I would like to set up a review committee. I usually like to do 3 or 4 people to review the bids as a group, score the bids, and then come to the council with a recommendation from the group.
Should that go to the Recreation Committee?
If the Recreation Committee would like to participate, I have no objection to that going to the Recreation Committee. As you know, Councilman,
I think it should, only because it is recreation. But we were highly involved with River Point when it was being built from soup to nuts, and this is on a much smaller scale than River Point Park. So I think there's a meeting to be held on March 26th, Freddie, right? Yeah. March 26th? I think maybe that could be one of the first.
So what I would suggest then, Councilman, is that I would provide for that committee the bid specs as they exist. I don't expect the bids will be in by then.
Right,
so that they can review, and there is selection criteria in the bid specifications based on qualification experience of the companies, performance record, and cost. So there's an analysis that gets done. And certainly if they want to participate, or even if they would like to score them, I would defer. I have no problem with that. I've got other things I can do. So yeah, so we're looking at.
Have we built a play? Freddie, you would know. Have we ever built a playground before?
No. I'm not sure if we did in River Point, but I'll tell you, the playground at River Point collapsed and never been replaced.
It's not just nuts and bolts to put it together, right?
No.
I would suggest going with let the company do it and let them hold the liability.
Well, that's why we've designed it that way and structured it that way, so.
To be honest, I know a lot of people will volunteer and whatever, but, it's been 3 years, we've been trying to get roofs on dugouts down at River Point. We can't get that done, so I imagine doing a whole playground is not gonna be very simple with and it's no fault of Parks and Rec, there's 3 guys. And if you got.
3 guys can't handle that.
3 guys cannot handle putting in a
You need
playground
equipment.
and maintaining.
We don't have.
You need people
we
and
don't have
equipment, exactly.
Yeah, so if I'm hearing the council correctly.
I would take it out. My opinion is I would take.
The only way I wouldn't take it out is if you got a construction company wanting to do an in-kind donation.
Yeah, I don't see that happening.
No,
you don't
I
see
don't
it,
either.
but it's happened.
Yeah, I understood,
And
but.
the only reason I'm saying is I think the experts should handle the job.
Yeah.
And then, because if something were to happen, we build it, we're held liable,
Yeah,
correct?
yeah. So the bid is structured such that we will be receiving bids for construction. We will be receiving bids for the purchase of equipment, and if a company wants to come in and provide the equipment and build, they can submit a bid
Right.
that way. So there'll be 3 versions of the bid.
Okay.
I suspect that the least expensive way is someone's gonna provide you with equipment, say, here's your equipment.
Right.
And a company's gonna come in and say, we'll install that for this price. So I think the combination of those would probably provide you with the best value.
And you might be shocked by the prices on here too, I'm just gonna.
Yeah, so,
The only other
Some people
thing,
just say it's a playground.
no, they're expensive.
Yeah, it's not a playground, it's a play structure. It's
Yeah,
a big
yeah,
difference.
I understand.
the only other thing I'd like to have firsthand in this, it is my ward, and I work very well with Councilman Giroux on this one. He had a idea of putting a splash pad, and Ed was working on it. He had no place to do it, and it affects my constituents probably just as much, if not more, than Ward 3. So me and Ed agreed on using that spot, and Ed kept me informed on everything that was going on there, and I still want to be informed because it is my ward for my constituents.
And you
That's
will
all
be.
I have to say on that.
You will be informed, Councilman. So if you'd allow me to finish, we'll be looking at awarding the bid mid to late spring, construction late spring, early summer. The required completion date by DEM under the grant is September 22nd. We've built that into the bid. It has to be completed prior to that date, so anyone coming in is going to know that's drop dead date. And then, once it's complete, we'll be able to submit for reimbursement from the state, $100,000 for the playground. Any other questions?
Thank you, Mark.
Thanks, Mark.
Thank you.
Ed,
Public comment?
Ed's got something to say.
Hey, you got something to say? Just come up to the microphone. You know the routine.
Feels funny looking at you on this side, Ed.
I just shaved off the sides, man. I had a full beard, so I thought beards were popular, I found out, so that's good. First of all, Jay, thank you very much for calling me last night. I really appreciate it, and you're right, this was my baby. I have a couple of questions. The first thing is, what happened to the 50,000? There was supposed to be 150,000. What happened to the 50,000?
This 47,500, 2,500, I believe, was taken for tree removal. Is that
Oh, so it's 40, about 47.
47,500.
So we have a total of 147 to work with. I knew we had to do.
The grant was 100,000, and there was
Right, good.
47,500.
And that's fine. I know in-kind was part of it. And again, Mark, thank you very much. This is the guy that got us the $100,000, who worked very
Yes.
hard, and I congratulate you on that. I do tonight. Good job, and finally, we're going to see it to fruition. That would be great. Very excited about it. It is bordering on Ward 3 and Ward 1, and we worked very well together, and I'm sure you'll continue to, for the benefit of the kids up there. I do disagree, though. Ward 3, there's a lot of kids across the street there.
Long tangle with two head, they moving in.
Oh, yeah,
buddy.
yeah. But in any case,
We'll let you be the first to swing on, don't worry.
that's great, that's great. But there are some other in-kind. I know we had set up a few things. A construction company in town was willing to come in and do all the excavation for free. And there's other things too, you know, if you push some people, they may help us out. Maybe Centerville Bank, or maybe not. But I'm really excited about it. I think it's great, and I hope I can stay involved in it. One thing, we did have water, have Kent County, when they were doing the renovation of the main on the Factory Street, we did have them put a lateral in for a water park, a small splash park, and there's a lot of them. If you go around, I'm sure people in the audience have seen them. And I thought something that would be, and we got as far as even talking to vendors that did it. You'd be surprised how they're not inexpensive, but how they've come way, way down, depending on the pieces that you want up there.
Plus, we can water the grass at the same time.
Right, exactly. But I would pay attention to the footprint, the location of where you want to put it up there, because again, the lateral is there already. So if there was some intent to put a splash pad at a later date, you might want to be aware of where it's being placed. And I'm sure the committee would probably take a look at that too. But I think it's a great spot. Some people criticized the spot because it was so close to the road. I had experts up there from playground companies, and they thought it was fine, that there could be protection. Those rocks up there protected to begin with. But I think there's
It's
nice.
further away from the road than it appears.
It really
Even
is.
the Crompton Playground is probably closer to the road
It really is.
technically than
And
this
there's
one.
a lot of space there, Jay. There
Yeah.
really is a lot of space there. So again, congratulations. We're all winners when a playground goes up in town. And thank you very much.
Thanks,
Thank you,
Good
Ed, for
night.
coming out.
Nice seeing you again.
Same here, buddy.
Question to be asked on the May 17, 2018 ballot for the all-day vote, sponsored by Councilman Messier.
All right, so first, my constituents, even from when I was walking before I got elected, they discussed term limits. I don't think town council should be a lifetime appointment for anybody. Whether you're good, bad, indifferent, there should be a finite number of years that candidates should be here. And I know people say, well, what if there's a good candidate that's there? I think that if somebody leaves and they've been there for 14 years, then there's still time for somebody else. The void will be filled. I think that there's always should be a time for new blood to come in to the council. And then some of my constituents said that they like the 2 years as opposed to the 4 years. I like the 4-year terms because I think in 2 years, I mean, you got the 4-year term here, but you're a year in, you're already preparing for the next election. I think 4 years is a good time to truly judge a councilman or woman. But I think we discussed here for doing 3 4-year terms. I know in talking with some of my constituents since that point, they think maybe even to amend this to do two 4-year terms, so 8 total. And also on here it says that it doesn't affect us. I think it should affect us. Obviously, it's not prorated where somebody that's been here for 13 years is voting for this to eliminate themselves from office. So anybody that thought that, I just want to clarify that. But I think it should apply to, if we put it on the ballot now, it should apply to the next election. So if Mickey Mouse runs against me, which I know some councilmen think Mickey Mouse would beat me in the next election, if he wins against me and Mickey Mouse is sitting up here, his clock would start then. And if I get reelected, then at that point, the clock would start then on me or any of us. Now, of course, for Councilman Licciardi and Councilman D'Amico, their election doesn't come up to the next cycle. So is there a way that if it passes here, we could change the verbiage in that?
I may have misunderstood you when you called me. It was my understanding that you wanted it not to apply to the present
What I didn't want, I didn't want it to apply to, like, if somebody's already served that amount of terms, that they're automatically, if it goes through, they're out of office. That's not what I wanted.
It's got to be prospective, not retroactive.
No, correct, but you could put it in where,
Well,
from that point, the clock starts on any of us that here, right?
The language here basically says, if you are in office on May 4th, it doesn't apply.
I want it to apply to me. I just want it to apply, like, from that point forward.
This is what my concern is on this, and I know personally, I've had mixed feelings on this because on the national level, they're getting paid $150,000 a year, lavish dinners, expensive fundraisers, whatever it may be. So I've always kind of said to myself, there should be a term limit on a national level. But on a local level, I'm a little, and not because I'm a councilman, I wish Councilman Giroux actually stood here too. I have seen on the local level more turnover on the school committee and this town council in the past 12 years and I think the voters spoke, and let them continue speaking. Why would we change that? And I put in a lot of time and effort, and I'm gonna use me as an example. I put in a lot of time, a lot of effort, and I'm gonna say Councilman Padula, I'm gonna say he puts a lot of time, a lot of effort, he keeps his constituents happy, okay? If our constituents and your constituents want you there, or they don't want you there, that's up to them. Why should we, as, I'm not.
But I also
But
think.
again, I understand what you're saying, because people have said to me, well, some people have been there too long. You know what? Whether somebody likes me or dislikes me, my constituents vote for me, they decide who's running their ward. Now, in November, they could say, you know what, Dave, you spent 12 years here, it's time for a change. We got another guy or a lady comes in, might be a better candidate at the time. But they might look, you know, and that's their choice.
On the same token, then we should let the people decide if they want term limits or not. Let the people, because I've talked to hundreds of constituents.
Here's the funny part,
and it's about
Jim.
90-something%.
I'm gonna step in on this one.
Hold on one second, Angelo. I want to point out something. You said your constituents want the 2-year term. Well, we put that on the ballot, and they voted for the 4-year
Correct.
term, overwhelmingly 78%, I think it was, to 22.
If we put term limits on, it's going to pass by more than 75%. I will guarantee that.
You know, I just want to get my 2 cents in on this. Like Dave said, federal level, maybe even a state level, but a town level. If your constituents don't want you, I'm against 4-year terms. I voted against it myself, because if you get 3 guys in here that don't know how to read a budget, don't know how to do a 5-year plan, this town's in serious trouble. Whether they have vested interest or not, we do. So, townwide, they might vote because they're mad at their councilman. They might vote at term limits. When your constituents are gonna either, like David said, put you in, or they're gonna throw you out. And that's up to the voters. So I'm totally against term limits for that reason, and that reason only. If my constituents aren't happy with me, or David's, or any one of us up here, 4-year limit, 4-year term, I don't like it. Because you're stuck with that guy for 4 years. 2 years is fine, but it should be, if they're here for 40 years, that means they did a goddamn good
Then
job.
let the people decide if they want term limits. Let the
So
people.
what people are gonna decide?
Hang on a minute. I've done a pros and cons list here, and I tell you what, I'm not for term limits at all. And I have a different perspective here than you do, Angelo, because I'm in for 4 years. And I'll be honest with you, whether I got voted in or not, I wouldn't want to run in this election simply because of the disruption. And as I'm speaking now as a councilman, it's a disruption of the flow. I mean, I personally feel I'm doing a good job. Some of my constituents may agree, some may not. But when you run for an election, you know, I didn't realize till I actually did it how much time this takes to do it the right way. To go out and walk the streets and talk to people, not just hand out flyers, but actually talk to people to see what they have to say. And I wasn't able to hit every house and talk to everybody. There's not enough time, believe me. But I made every effort a few times, and I like the 4-year term for that reason. But I understand both sides here. If you have someone in there that you feel is not doing a good job, you feel is not moving the town forward, and that could be anybody. I'm not talking about anybody in particular. That could be me. Maybe there could be a clause after 2 years to try and remove that person. You know, I really think that I don't like, and what do I get is what you're saying here is, if the whole we put this on the ballot and the whole town votes for it, it really takes away from each ward. And whether it's going to be in 2018 or 2030, I don't see me being on the council in 2030. It's a long time away. Maybe, but I'm still being Ward 4 most likely. I want to have that opportunity in Ward 4 to vote for my council person. And I think that takes that away. It's just...
It definitely does on the 12th year.
If I may...
But I think, you know, it's... if the people in Ward 4 don't want me in 2020, then I feel they're going to let me know. And that's fine. And that means I've done something that they didn't like for many years at that point. So I'm not for term limits at all.
I just think we should let the people decide.
But we
If I
do,
may-
we do let the people decide.
The people
If they
want
don't
term, the people want term limits.
The people want, no, they don't. No, they don't. The people want somebody who's in there who's sticking up for them.
So if we put it on the ballot,
And that's it.
We'll be able to find out definitively if the people
take
want
it
Well,
away
you
from
find
the
out
wards.
right now, though. You found out right now. I mean, I'm going to use, not to pick on anyone, but I'm going to use Mr. O'Connell here as an example. You're in my ward. If you have an issue with me, I know you're going to tell me, and that's fine. Hopefully outside of the council meeting. But if not, and we do it outside of the council meeting, and he still doesn't get the satisfaction, then I know he'll be right up here. And that's his choice, and that's his right, and I don't want to take that away.
So, and again, I will say, I was a proponent of the 4-year terms,
You're right there,
only
that's what I said.
because,
You're right.
one of the reasons, in 2006, myself, Angelo, and Phyllis were new to the council.
We knew nothing.
Let me tell you, it's a and for you three right now, you've been on for a year and a half. Now think about, personally, if you had an election, and one of you do, but personally, you have an election this November. The stuff you're trying to work on, or whatever it may be, will be null and void if you get unelected.
It's another one of my
So-
points, Dave.
So it comes up so fast.
It's the history, though, too. I don't say use the word rely, but I question some things that have gone on in the past simply because I wasn't here. And that's no fault of mine, John's, or Jay's. But I'll go to Dave and I'll call him up and I'll call Angelo up and ask why this happened. This doesn't make sense to me. Can you explain it? And I think that's, I do. I think that's valuable knowledge that, in this case, these two gentlemen have simply because they've been here a long time. Whether you agree with what they say or not, I mean, I don't agree with Dave, all the time. I don't agree with Angelo all the time, like right now. But, I think to lose that, we have a problem. Especially, we have a new town manager, hasn't been here a year yet. A new finance director, hasn't been here a year yet. Freddie Gill's in an interim position, but it's new. Chief McGarrett has been here a long time. If we're going to set limits on terms, then let's do this. I'm going to make a point here. Paul, how long have you been here for the town?
12 years.
12 years. Okay, so you'd be done. Tim? Tim's done. Chief McGarrett? 28. He's done. Freddie? 23. He's done. So what are we starting with?
Elected positions are, you're comparing apples to
It's a
oranges.
position.
You're
It's a
comparing apples to
position.
oranges.
No, it's not. It's
But
still a
again,
position, whether
I
you're
just wanna
elected,
point-
or you're appointed,
You guys-
or you're hired.
But you're saying it's a career position. Let me ask you something. $5,000 a year,
3,600.
right? No health care, no lavish dinners. Once a year we go, or twice a year we go to a trust dinner. We get cold chicken or rubber steak.
And then John steals my chicken.
I don't steal the chicken.
Again,
Give me the chicken.
if there was a ton of perks up here, we would look at, back in the 80s, the council was getting Blue Cross Blue Shield, full coverage. They were getting a little more money, and they cut themselves. They cut themselves in the 90s. And we as a council, and especially the last 12 years, said no raises to the council. No nothing. It's not, this isn't about, this elected position, in my eyes, is not about money in no way, shape,
Of
or
course not.
form. It's about the love and the desire to be here and work with your community. Again, we may not agree with each other on a lot of things, or we may agree on a lot of things. But again, I think everybody has the town of West Warwick in their heart when they're serving up here on this committee, the school committee, because if you're gonna put term limits on the council, then you're gonna put term limits on the school committee. And we just realigned the school committee elections along with the town council elections to follow their ward. And that was to work with the school committee also. I now have a school committee member who now, I never knew who represented Ward 2 as a school committee member. So now I know Rainey Kutu has Ward 2. If Rainey Kutu, a constituent, calls me about the school department, I know who to recommend them to. And I know Rainey's gonna work hard for his constituent. Now, if they don't want Rainey in there after 4 or 8 years, well, guess what? They're gonna unelect him. And it's been done here because your seat's new, your seat's new, your seat's new, and almost every seat is new at the school committee. I have seen your seat change over 3 times, your seat's changed over twice, and now your seat's 3 or 4 times. If the constituents want you out, or if you're tired of serving, you will decide for you as a person that you're gonna resign, or your constituents are gonna take and make their
Well,
decision.
I'm just asking to let the people of West Warwick have a vote and decide if they want term limits or not. I mean, why can't we let them speak for
Because
themselves?
you're taking away from that ward.
Yeah.
Maybe Ward 5 wants it because they're not happy with John. Maybe Ward 3 wants it because they're not happy with you. Maybe Ward 2 wants it. Ward 1 don't want it. I can vouch for that. I've been here 12 years, I know. You might get a few that want it, but when they're happy with their councilman or their rep or their senator, you're not beating them.
I say let the people.
No matter how
Can I-
much somebody tries.
I'd like to offer opinion. So, this is obviously a hot topic. First of all, I like the 4-year term. I think that,
I agree.
it's a learning curve for the first year. And then you just go right into another election. It's really
We're
not
still
enough
learning
time.
today. 12
No,
years
that's what I'm
later.
saying. Like, there's something to be said for time and experience. I do like that the terms are staggered so that you keep some continuity to the council. You keep some sort of wisdom on the council. But I did talk to a bunch of people over the last couple of weeks. I just want to offer some of the different opinions that came up to consider. First of all, people who are essentially don't think that we should have term limits. A lot of people feel like you're somewhat denying the voters their right to representation by setting a term limit. Again, there is something to be said for seniority and wisdom. But on the other side of that, some people, and these are just opinions that I heard, some people feel that it allows too much power to public officials that could lead to some sort of corruption. It could force officials, or it makes officials, if they're within a certain period of time, to get right to work. If they know that they have a set period of time, it allows for fresh ideas, it allows for new approaches to be instituted. This one I thought was kind of interesting, and I think it plays into what was just being said, the idea of someone constantly being voted back in. Sometimes when someone's been there for a long period of time, it does two things that are unfair to the new candidate. One, it creates name recognition. So if you're a new candidate, it might be difficult to become known essentially beyond the candidate that's already been there for 10, 12, so many years. Wait, one more thing,
they were
David.
involved in
Wait,
the
one more.
community.
Wait. No, and I do agree with those things, but let me just offer this. The other part of that is that during that time, it's not cheap to run an election, and it's often difficult to get your finances together or to compete with someone who's been in an office for a long period of time, and they've established, they have their regular fundraisers, and it's easier for them to amass more of a war chest. So somebody offered that. I thought that was pretty interesting. And then just seems like everybody I talk to likes the idea of term limits. Maybe not in this room, but over the last couple of weeks.
Well,
So just a couple different
let me
opinions.
just touch on a couple of things that you said here. One, name recognition. 2005, when I put my name in the hat, people are saying, who the hell's Dave Gosling, except for the baseball community.
New face in the race.
Okay? My comment was new face in the race. I knocked on every single door but one street. Every single door, whether they were home or not. I left a magnet, I left my card, I left my phone number. If I wasn't there, or if they weren't there, they could call me, talk to me, my views. I ran against, in 2006, a governor's cousin who was very involved in politics in this community. Okay? It was my responsibility to get my name out there and for people to get to know me.
Well, I mean, I did the same thing. I
All
beat
right.
up the longest tenured at that point incumbent councilman. So I mean, I
I'm not-
understand.
But that was your responsibility, get your name out there. And then you talk about war chest. Anybody want to go in my campaign finance? It's minus $4,000. There's no war chest.
I'm minus 28.
I give myself a loan. I pay my $2,000 into my campaign. Yes, I do get some small contributions, but again, I did not have a fundraiser last election.
I raised $1,200 last time.
Well,
So
again, I didn't have a fundraiser last election. I let myself borrow money. I put it in my campaign account as a loan. There's no war chest for anybody locally, okay? Nobody up here, nobody on that school committee. Now, could there be war chests on a state level? Could there be war chests on a national level? Absolutely. I mean, I get fundraisers sent to my house on a national level want me to go
200,
to
500.
down the street for $500 to eat a dinner, and I'm like, I'm not going. Good luck, you know, because I can't afford $500 dinners. It's not worth
You know, John, I hear what you're saying, but, and we ran, you know, wards are close together, but I worked my ass off.
And I agree. I
To,
did the same.
to
I
run,
walked my ward
for this
three
election,
times.
I got out there, I made a point, so people knew who I was.
Right.
I put a lot of money into a lot of signs and put them out there. And I worked hard, and that's how I got out into the community. And I worked against not one person, but I worked against the entire Democratic Party. Because in my election, I can tell you, it was me and my
Welcome to the party.
14-year-old daughter out there against the suits. You were there, and I take pride in that. So for you to tell me that I can do this and I can't do that, I think that's wrong. And I'm not for a term limit of any kind. If somebody wants to be up here for 50 years, God bless them. I can tell you, won't be me.
You know-
And like you're saying, you get a lot more negatives from people than positives.
I'll tell you who had the most turnovers in any ward that I've ever been involved in was Ward 5. You probably had 5 councilmen in 10 years.
Yeah.
They got a big turnover there, so I guess you guys don't have to worry about term limits. But it seems, it started with Tommy Podursky, Mark Bourget, it started with, Kelsey, it started with Tucker.
Brian decided to step down.
Right,
I
and
don't think
we
they had
should
choice.
know as professionals, once we start to get if I start to get complacent, you're gonna let me know, but I'm gonna know. I'm not gonna come up just for $5,000 a year. You know, it's really, once it's time, it's time. And that's, I think, a personal decision.
So, and again, I had a conversation with Jay earlier today. He was talking to me about some other issues, and we talked about this. And I personally said, Jay, yeah, I've been here 12 years. Has it been a long 12 years? Not really. I got to ask myself, where did the time go? Because 12 years flew by, in my eyes. Yes, there's sometimes it's hard up here. It's difficult. You've got tough decisions. You're getting beat up, whatever it may be. But, you know, again, in 2006, my daughter was 3 years old in a wagon, walking door to door with me with my 6-year-old son, knocking on every door with me. They were dedicated. Your family was dedicated to this election. And some hard times. My daughter's moved on and tried to help other people in their elections at 13 years old, at 12 years old. She's seen them lose. It was a tough time on her for her time and effort that she put into a campaign. I actually watched her last election cry because she thought this person was going to win, and it didn't happen. And I got to say, it's a learning curve for your family. It's a lot of time and dedication. It's a lot of time and dedication as you as a person. Don't think, and anybody who thinks about running for office, don't think it's the 2 hours, 3, 4 hours here every other Tuesday. Because this storm, when all of us were getting phone calls, when's National Grid coming, you know, and you're trying to find answers out for them, you're without power, and you're trying to fix other people's power for them, or whatever it may be. You know, trees are down in the middle of the street. When's DPW going to get out here? Well, sorry, DPW can't touch it because there's electrical wires in it. That needs to be National Grid. So we're at their mercy. You know, this isn't a every other week job. This is a dedication for, and once you decide you're running, 4 years is a long time in some people's eyes. You got to remember, you're dedicated for 4 years. Now, somebody said something about earlier. There is a process. If your constituents aren't happy with you, and they go out and get 1,200 or whatever, so many signatures, it's a percentage of voters, they can have a special election.
By ward.
By ward. So if they want to get rid of you, if you did something, and trust me, I think if this council was up here and somebody did something bad enough, we would ask you to step down. And when I say bad, it would have to be criminal or unethical. Okay, and I'm not, so, and luckily, we've never had to deal with that. But again, I just don't see this going on a ballot, and you're taking, and yes, you're giving them the right to vote for it or vote against it, but in my eyes, you're also taking away from voters in the future, no matter who's up here.
Dave, only because I like the council to know where I come up with the language. There are 19 communities who have their code of ordinances on the
internet. Of the 19, 3, Central Falls, Warwick, and Central Falls, Warren, and I think North Kingston are the only 3 with term limits. One of them has 12 years. The other 2 have 8 years. One of them has a provision that 2 years out of office, you can run again. But I just wanted the council to know.
That's disruption.
I just wanted the council to know where when Councilman Messer called me and said he wanted.
I'm not.
No, I'm just saying,
Brought it up,
I just wanted the I just
Um,
wanted the council to know where I came up with.
I think
how I
mean,
came up with the language.
you could say I'm wrong, but I think a majority of people in West Warwick want term limits.
Tom?
Hang on 1 second, please.
I just say let them vote.
I appreciate that we can disagree,
Yeah.
and that's fine. The one objective I have, and I'm gonna bring it up because it's out there, is it should come to the council first. It shouldn't be all over social media to start this big drama fest.
No, that's my job, to reach out to my constituents and find out how they feel about it.
Hang on, but you're reaching out to everybody all over creation. It should come up to the council first, and then whatever the hell you want to put online, I don't care.
So I have to ask you permission
No,
before I
hang
post
on,
it on social media?
Listen, buddy. All right, listen. All right, I'm not in junior high anymore.
Right, so I don't
Let's
have
try
to
and
ask you
act
permission.
professional.
So I don't have to ask you permission before I post something.
Hey, you're not my boy. You know.
And you're not my boss.
I just think it's right. I just think it's respectful to bring it to this body first to speak about it. When it goes on an agenda and the agenda goes out, correct me if I'm wrong, to the public, they can speak all they want about it. They can ask all these questions. I've had people ask me questions about my agenda item. And what I say to them is, and this is how we're different, and that's fine. I say, listen to the council meeting. I'll explain it then. Because I want to give the 4 of you the opportunity to discuss it and to hear about it first.
So can I ask you a question then?
Yeah.
How is it different for if you were to reach out to your constituents, or how do you feel about this issue before you bring it here, as me reaching out to social media and go, what
If
your
it's 1 or
opinions
2
on this?
people, I mean, you're putting it out there for 20,000
You're right. The
people
more
to make
people,
comments.
the more people that can give me input, the better decision I can make. Whether we agree or disagree, the more people that give me input, the better decision I can make that reflects the community.
But we're the ones that make the decision. The 5 of us are elected to make that decision and have those discussions. That's all I'm saying. We can disagree. You can put anything you want online. I don't really care. It's my thought process as a colleague sitting up here. That's all. I don't know how you feel. You two feel.
I
But-
have mixed feelings on that because.
I know how Angelo feels
Well,
about it.
I could tell you that I do sometimes before putting something on the agenda, I do speak to my constituents. Some of them bring
And
it
that's
to me.
fine.
And I do ask.
Do you
them-
put it online to ask 30,000 people to say, what do you think about
I
it?
think if you noticed, I haven't been a social media person lately. I've totally tried to avoid it.
Most of us have.
And actually, to be honest, the only time I do is, and I answered Mrs. O'Connell's message the other day, and that's because my wife said, Mrs. O'Connell, and my wife loves her family, said, you better answer Mrs. O'Connell. So I got a threat from the wife. And that's why I answered it. But as far as social media, I have not been answering. I don't even really look at it.
Some days I would like to do that. That's for sure.
Well, again, you chose that.
Well,
job.
that's a double-edged sword. That's how I reached out to the community originally before I got elected. So for me to not do that now is not being
Jay,
true to who I am.
I'm not saying
Agree
you
or
shoulda,
disagree with me.
I'm not saying you should or shouldn't. I'm just saying it's not my choice of way of doing it. That's your choice. That's your decision. It's,
All right, let's
again,
hear from the audience. This is getting dragged on, and I don't think it's going nowhere.
Tom?
I just don't want to sound redundant. Jay, you got elected because I think you banged on my door at least twice. You went to every constituent, and that's how you got elected.
Your chickens another time.
Then you came to see my chickens too. But my point is, maybe you can explain the benefit of a term limit. Personally, what I don't understand is Angelo's been at it since he had black hair. I mean, David had hair when
Maybe
he
I'm trying
started.
to save the hair color.
I'm trying to grow it back now. It's having a tough
the
time.
point is, these guys are doing a job that their constituents are happy with, and they keep at it. Why, I don't know. All of you guys have targets on your backs, it seems, at one point in time. But David keeps coming back, and he has more time and more to give to the community. He puts his hat in the ring every time. If there's a term limit, and your term is up, you're out. You might get some miserable, broken down old curmudgeon like me, or 2 or 3 of us, that are going to run for the seat. And a pure flop. And then 2 years later, you have the opportunity to run again, and you're going to get elected by an overwhelming vote. What we have done is set the town back by taking a good person that still has time to serve, still has good to do. I just don't see it. And when we go to the voting booth in November, that's when the voters, their voice is heard. I just don't see the...
Out of a town this big, and I've heard that exact argument, out of a town this big, if a vacuum opens up, a good candidate will come forward. I think there's a lot of good people in this town. To say there's only one person per ward that would be capable of running a town, I think that's
not what
true.
I meant.
No, I know, but I'm just saying, but you're saying like you're going to have 3 curmudgeons, to use your terminology. There will be a couple of curmudgeons possibly, but there'll be some good candidates. There's plenty of good people in this town. To say that there's only one person capable of running a town
I sure
is not
hope
true.
so. And if they're known and they throw that hat into the ring and they're going to run against you or David or Tim or whomever they're going to run against, the voters will make that choice.
That's why I think we should let the voters make this choice. I said, give it to the people.
So a term limit, you're going to limit a good man or a good woman's opportunity to serve their community.
If that's what the people of West Warwick want, then that's what will happen.
That's what they'll do in November. I just don't see the benefit. My opinion.
We can agree to
Thank you.
disagree. That's your opinion.
Hi. As far as these term limits, I don't even believe that we're even having this discussion and wasting this much time on this. We need $2.7 million before the town becomes insolvent.
That's not what this is about. Right
Fine, but you had no problem with no bids for the solicitor's position after, what, 19 years?
That's not what this is about either.
I understand that, but why all of a sudden it's term limits?
not all of a
I'm in
sudden.
your ward. I don't want term limits.
Well, there's
I'm
other,
a constituent.
You may not realize this. There are other people
I'm
in Ward 3
here.
other than you, Anna.
I'm here. Where are they? Tell me, where are your supporters for this? Where do they show up? I went to your little coffee meeting. There were 12 people there.
You're right.
Where's the support behind this? Don't waste everybody's time tonight on something that we really don't have the time to talk about.
You choose not to. Let the people decide if they choose to.
You're wasting people's time and
That's
money
the kettle
on
the pot
this.
black.
Oh, good Lord.
Anna, you know how to read a budget?
Yes, I
You
do.
know how to turn
Thank
your
you very
cell phone
much.
off in a council meeting?
You know how to balance a checkbook?
Come on, guys.
Just
We're almost
asking.
there. We don't have to be
Educated. so you-
Exactly. The point
Educated. I've
is
seen some of the
that
stuff you put online. You got to talk about educated to me.
oh, good Lord. You know,
this
East
is hang
Greenwich has a policy
Well, he can
on
throw bars at
online
me over and over, and I throw
stuff.
one back,
We
and then
need
the
that.
crowd moans and groans. I mean, how many shots can he throw at me, and I throw one back, and all of a sudden I'm being the one disrespectful up here?
You're supposed to be a councilman. Do you know
Correct.
what that means?
So I can take 3 shots from a councilman, and I throw one back, and all of a sudden I'm being disrespectful.
about you.
Try a little
You got
demeanor.
conflict? If you
Try a
really wanna
little
know what I
demeanor.
think about you, come outside, I'll tell you.
Wow, all right.
All right, if I could...
It's your party,
I'm gonna
David.
end this conversation.
It's your party.
First, I didn't bring up his name, you got a guilty conscience. You're lucky I'm not.
Just really quick and briefly, I just want to say something.
State your name and address.
Anna Maria Raimondo, 26 Carlson. Everyone's entitled to their opinion, obviously, townspeople, and that's a great thing about this country. We all have an opinion, and we have the freedom to express that. If you come up with ideas and you come together and you throw those ideas around, decide to take to people, that's one thing. But ultimately, it's people's decision. And we have wards broken up for a reason. And those people of that ward get to decide who they want to represent it, which I think is a good thing. I'll take it back to when I turned 18 years old. I wasn't immersed in any governmental type of things, anything political at all. But I did make the decision to go and do research and look into it further and see who was running for the president and how it worked, and who was running locally and how it worked. And when you do so, you vote, and you vote in who you think is the best person to represent your ward, your country, your state. With that said, and everything else here, I think that it's up to the wards to decide basically who they want in as their representative. If you take that whole town as a collective and let them vote, you're going to get some people that may come out in your ward, some people that come out in your ward, and they're going to vote that they don't want it, but maybe the other people in the other wards don't represent the numbers the way the other wards do, and it gets voted down. Is that fair to the individuals that are doing a fabulous job or that are up for election at that time? I don't think so. And other than that, as far as name recognition, if you're in the community, you could have a fabulous name in the community doing anything other than politics. You could be a teacher, and you could be sincerely loved by the entire community. And for that, you're going to get voted in, and you may even stay in because you're doing a great job at what you do and people love you. So I don't think it necessarily has to do with being on the council for a certain period of years where someone's going to recognize you, because it could go either way. It could be you're not representing the way people wanted you to and they want you out, or you're fabulous and you're doing a great job and they just want to keep you as long as they can because you've got that momentum. So I just want to add that. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. I have a consensus.
What are we voting?
There's really no vote, it's on for discussion, actually. So at this point, Jay,
I'm not for term limits, for the record.
Jay Messier?
Neither am I.
Wait,
Me? You're asking me?
Jay, you're not for term limits, Jason Messier?
Obviously, yes.
I'm not.
Doesn't sound like anyone wants term limits, so I'm gonna say no.
And Angela?
No.
All right, thank you. We'll move on.
The second annual Easter extravaganza sponsored by Councilman Licciardi.
I won't take as long as the last subject. But I've been really busy planning the Easter extravaganza. I've had some health issues, so I've been really struggling with this, but it's coming along a long way. I do not want to put a flyer out yet because I don't have all the final details. And believe it or not, people have been calling me to use lack of a better term, donate. So I have 5,000 toy-filled eggs at my house right now, in boxes, all sealed. I didn't take any eggs. My family is ecstatic for this because if they weren't stuffed, then they'd have to do it. And they were purchased by the American Legion Post 2, American Legion Auxiliary Unit 2, Sons of American Legion Squadron 2, American Legion Riders of Rhode Island State Chapter Post 2, and the West Warwick Veterans Council. And that cost $700. It's quite a bit. So Kelly Doherty approached me a while ago, and she's an auxiliary member, and she organized all that for us. And I'd really like to thank you, Kelly, for doing that. That took a lot off my plate. And she's here to present checks tonight. If you can come up.
The eggs came filled this year. They didn't send the empty
They're
ones
all-
by accident.
they were all filled.
Last year they sent them empty by accident, right?
He was really worried he wasn't gonna get it.
Wow. Thank you very much. I'm going to turn this. They're all made out to the town of West Warwick, and that's where all donations are coming from. I've reached out to some vendors today. One called me back in particular. All this goes pretty quick at this point, but I'm really excited for this part. And this is going to go to Ernie. You're going to be getting a check in a couple days for $5,000. Wow. And this is coming from Belize, located in John's Ward in Ward 5. They're great to work with, and I'm not going to take all the credit. Chief Barris actually has a contact over there, and this just kind of came up. And he introduced me to this contact, and I've been speaking with him over the last 3 or 4 days. And when I went to Belize, it was something like, all right, people have given $50, $100, one in particular $1,000 for the recreation events that I put on last year, all with checks made out to the town of West Warwick. So Belize, when he called me back, he says, Councilman, he says, you're going to be happy. He says, just let me know who to make the check out to. So he sent me an email. And I got home and the other day, and it's $5,000. And that's going to go for, I'm going to stretch that over the course of the entire year. It's going to go for the egg hunt. I am going to do a summer outdoor event in Crompton, in Ward 4. I don't know what it's going to be yet. I'm going to work on that after March. It's going to go towards the second annual Halloween Spookathon. And it's also going to go towards another outdoor event in Crompton around the holiday season. It will not be a tree lighting. We already have 2 of those, and they're very successful, and I'm not looking to step on toes. But it'll be different. I have some ideas already for that. So with that 5,000, that's coming in, Ernie, it should go right to you, Curtis, Town of West Warwick, Attention Town Manager. But I'd really like to thank police. They would like a banner mentioning their support. They're allowing me to design the banner. I'm going to mention the Town of West Warwick along with Belize, and that's something that I'm going to hang up in Crompton and just take it down, leave it up, mention it for the whole year. So that's where we're going with that. And I, not to harp on the last agenda, but in the past 10 months, I mean, to make these events work, I worked very hard, and I brought in over $10,000 to the town. So I take a little bit of offense when somebody says to me, all right, you can't run again. You know, so I think everybody should know that. That's all. And the event's going to go off March 31st, beginning at 9 a.m. We're going to be outside for the egg hunt, filtering inside. It's going to be staggered. I don't foresee any issues, knock on wood, and hopefully everybody will have a great time. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Jay. And you lied, it took just as long as the last time.
No, it didn't.
I'm kidding.
No, it didn't.
I'm
And
kidding.
this is something that's happening right now, and I really feel this is more meaningful. That's my personal opinion on this.
I was kidding. Upcoming appointments, Planning Board, Technology Committee, Sewer Use Tax Board of Review, Pension Board, Juvenile Hearing Board, Board of Assessments and Reviews, West Warwick Public Library, West Warwick Housing Authority, Board of Tenant Affairs. Public comment. Comments will be addressed to the Town Council, who will take them under advisement.
I have one quick thing for public comment.
Council?
I just want to have you add something to the next agenda, the Earth Day cleanup. I just confirmed with Barbara Tayback, it's going to be on April the 15th, April the 14th. Saturday's the 14th. I believe the rain date is the Sunday. So just put the Earth Day discussion. We're going to have Barbara Tayback come to the next meeting and discuss it.
And I got a confirmation. I think Patuxent River Authority is also doing a river cleanup that same weekend. I'll get the.
And I don't know if Barbara reached out to you, but she wanted to reach out to all the councilmen if they want to be involved in their own wards.
I'm meeting with Patuxent River Authority next Monday, the 12th.
Stan?
I'm going to their meeting. And I'm looking at, they should have a schedule of events of where they're going to be and what they're going to do. And that's going to affect the
When is it?
the Monday, it was supposed to be the 5th, but now it's moved to the 12th, so it'll be next Monday night,
Can you send me an email? Can I go with you?
if you want to. But that's going to affect the fishing pier as well, because they're looking at doing some things there, which as soon as I get more information,
Yeah,
I'll bring it out.
I know they brought up the fishing pier to me. They wanted to, I know you wanted to be involved in the Ward 4 cleanup. Ward 2, we have a couple of different situations. I know I got River Point Park, which they have the path all the way around the baseball fields and up through the back there. He was back there last week helping, by the way, DPW and Patuxent River Authority were in boats a few weeks ago cleaning up the shores. Not the best of weather, not the warmest time of the year.
A lot that people don't
So, you know, not having the brush and the trees there, it was easier for them to get at the stuff. But they also saw what the banks looked like behind River Point, so they're talking about cleaning that up. And is there anything else from the council? Because I have an eager young gentleman standing here.
He's falling asleep, the poor kid. I forgot he was here.
How you doing? Could you state your name for the record?
My name is Connor Fanoff.
How you doing?
Good.
No,
Connie, you need a coffee?
Thinking about that career in politics, aren't you?
Yeah,
Don't.
It's fine. It's all right. Is there anything any of you know about my project already? Nothing?
Angela, you do.
So basically, I'm going to do an Eagle project on cleaning Brookside Park over here. We're trying to do it this spring, and what I'm asking for does cost money, like a good amount of money. So I'd like to talk to you about that first, because that's probably the main thing you guys are worried about. So basically, I wouldn't even call it a park at this point. It's garbage.
You're talking Brookside Avenue?
Yeah, it's garbage. It's absolutely garbage. There's syringes everywhere. It's like people have been doing drugs over there. It's trashed. The mulch is completely gone. There's like rocks under the swings. It's really dangerous. And that's if the swings were actually there. So what we're asking for is for about 10 yards of mulch, 2 infant swings, and a biohazard receptacle to pretty much clean up all the trash that's over there.
How, do you know relatively how much that you're looking for?
Good amount.
Mr. Reed, if you just come on up here, if you want to.
See, I told you, Connor, look, I can almost say what's gonna happen.
Here comes your list here. Who I think it is. It is. Watch this.
What do we need? What do you need, Connor?
I need
10 yards of
10
mulch?
yards, 2 infant swings, and
You got infant swings too?
No, but you might.
I do.
In your ward somewhere.
Somewhere, I'm sure.
What's a biohazard receptacle?
It's a little plastic thing where they put the needles and syringes.
Oh, it's beautiful.
It's
We
like
probably
a
can
trash
get that.
can.
We can
going.
probably get that.
Yeah.
at
We can
DPW.
get-
And as far as the other things, as far as the other things, if you reach out to me, we can probably
You
find
can
some.
get the infant swing.
You take care of the mulch. I'll do the.
I'll take
It's
care of
working
the
together.
mulch.
Look at that.
Okay.
Playground mulch, right? Is that what you want? Playground mulch?
Yeah, pretty much.
There you go. Done deal. We'll install it. We'll bring it. You guys can help us install it.
All right, that
All
sounds
right.
good.
Okay.
Two upgraded, two good playgrounds now in Ward 3.
See how easy, Connor?
Easier than I thought it would be.
town works together.
That's how much we respect the Boy Scouts in this town.
Thank you, Derek.
Thank you.
Thank you, Reed
Thank
Landscaping.
you, Derek.
Connor, thank you for sitting here through this.
You should get some kind of badge for just sitting through this meeting.
Nice job.
We'll talk to your troop leader. We'll make sure you get some kind of badge for this.
A misery badge. Any other public comment?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it.
Ernie, there's checks here. Can I give this to you to give to finance? Joanne Carley, I don't know the name of the account.
I broke your pen.